The gatekeepers were nearly invincible. The Arctic temperature was -60 degrees and players would perish in just 1 hour. The labyrinth map was a vast 10,000 square kilometers. This was clearly designed to torture the players. After countless beatings and repeated attempts studying every possible method, Kang Jin-hyuk finally conquered the 50th floor, becoming the first person to clear this virtual world. Before the young man could even savor his victory, a system notification suddenly appeared right in front of him. The Tower of Trial's first update has been successful. Everyone must clear the next floor of the tower within 90 days. If you fail, humanity will vanish. While the whole world was still in a state of panic, Kang Jin-hyuk immediately shot up. He grabbed a random jacket and bolted out of his house like a horse. He couldn't waste any time here. He had to quickly get to the place downtown where he could collect the item. Amidst the chaotic crowd, many people still couldn't accept it. Some wanted to leave Seoul for Busan. Some wanted to leave South Korea for another country. Only a fool would stay and die for sure, but unfortunately, according to the news, no damn country had escaped its appearance of the tower. Kang Jin-hyuk ran past them, panting heavily. This was not a time to retreat, but a time to advance on the Korean server. The place he wanted to go was the foreign zone. There were about 30 of them in the entire country, and this was the closest one to his area. It was an underground shopping mall. Upon entering the system, announced you are entering an event zone. There were already a few people inside. These individuals were all players who had gone through the game's tutorial. They were all glaring at each other, which was understandable. The items would soon appear in limited quantities. With luck, the maximum one could collect was 5. A man in a sharp suit saw him arrive and asked, "You're Kang Jin-hyuk, right?" When he turned around, the man grinned widely. Well. You came here too. Huh, you locked yourself in your room, ignoring everything else just to grind this game all day. This person was Lee Jong-soo, also a streamer like him. He had up to 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, a famous streamer, and also the CEO of the company he used to work for. Kang Jin-hyuk looked at him and asked, "Don't you have a streaming schedule right now?" Lee Jong-soo shrugged and pointed towards the center. With something like this happening, what good is streaming anymore? The man nudged him and coaxingly asked, "What floor have you conquered in this game? We're old colleagues, so let's share a little secret with each other." "Don't even mention it. The thought makes me want to puke, colleagues, my ass." His company had tricked so many streamers into signing that slave contract. Their voices were drowned out by the power and influence of the company's team of lawyers. Gradually, the close brothers who had been with him from the very beginning all left because of this. That shameless man ignored Kang Jin-hyuk's dark expression and patted his shoulder, saying he knew he was a good player and that his mukbang videos were pretty good too. He would rewrite the contract to be mutually beneficial. Kang Jin-hyuk turned and landed a painful punch on him, making his nose bleed. "Lee Jong-soo, the world has changed. Don't you dare talk to me like we're friends." The cheap bastard successfully sent 2 of the man's teeth out of his jaw. It was so satisfying. According to his prediction, it should be time for the item to appear. Sure enough, from the lake in the center, a giant tree sprouted up. This was the Tree of Greed. Everything was exactly like in the game. Kang Jin-hyuk was both overjoyed and felt like this was all a dream. On the tree, delicious fruits were sprouting and ripening quickly. These fruits increased stats for strength, speed, and magic. Naturally, they were a good item. But there were only 4 fruits in total, and the number of people here was several times that it seemed this would be a fierce competition. Everyone rushed to cling to the tree trunk, wanting to climb up and pick the fruit. As they climbed, they pushed and pulled each other's hair to drag their rivals down. Lee Jong-soo also climbed up only to be kicked down. He furiously threw his blood-soaked handkerchief to the ground and cursed, "Damn it. If you had cooperated with me and shared the fruit, we both would have benefited. Now there's not a damn fruit left." Kang Jin-hyuk glared at him. "If you know, then speak up. If you don't, then shut up and listen. Now is not the time." Very quickly, someone had climbed up and picked a fruit from the Tree of Greed, then greedily devoured it. Most people didn't even know anything about this fruit. Those who had played a few times would only focus on getting the fruit, while lifelong players like him would enjoy the brutal transformation that followed. Someone immediately remembered that it would be very dangerous to eat all of those fruits. The tree's roots, like a great mother, avenged its fruit by striking at them back. When this was just a normal game, people had died here at least 50 times the large crowd that was climbing just moments ago. Quickly ran away. Lee Jong-soo also stood up, wanting to flee. Kang Jin-hyuk put his hands in his pockets and called out to him, "You're giving up." The man gritted his teeth and replied, "Of course I don't want to die here like this." Kang Jin-hyuk said calmly, "What a pity, because the real reward of this event can only be obtained once all those fruits are eaten." The man wasn't very convinced and asked again, "Are you serious?" Kang Jin-hyuk replied, "If I were lying, why would I still be standing here after hearing that Lee Jong-soo wavered? He had been wondering why he was just standing still and not fighting for the fruit." It seems this was the reason, although he didn't know the exact details. But this seemed like a golden opportunity to take advantage of this fool. Seeing that he had agreed, Kang Jin-hyuk revealed his plan. Now the two of them had to advance together. If they went one by one, they would easily be targeted, so they needed to charge in from two opposite sides at the same time. To distract the Tree of Greed, he also reminded the man, "Remember, if one of us hesitates, we will both die immediately." Lee Jong-soo replied, "Don't worry, I've played this game many times too." With a loud shout, he immediately dashed towards the tree while Lee Jong-soo stood still in his spot, laughing triumphantly. "You fool who would believe your words. Go on ahead and be the bait." Contrary to the man's words, Kang Jin-hyuk was glad that he hadn't changed one bit, because the one who would be the bait was him. The one standing farther from the tree branches stretched out as if they had a soul, attacking and wrapping him into a cocoon. Only then did Lee Jong-soo panic and cry for help. But why should he be saved? If he hadn't thought himself so clever, wanting to stand aside and let others be the bait, he wouldn't have died. The tree tightened its grip more and more, leaving only his eye visible. Lee Jong-soo screamed, "I don't want to die." Kang Jin-hyuk kindly suggested, "If you have a problem, take it up in court with your team of lawyers. Good riddance to a piece of scum." Next up was dodging the tree's attacks. He had memorized the direction and order of the tree's attacks, so dodging was as easy as pie. Two branches collided with a snap. In the end, the core of the Tree of Greed would reveal itself. These events were exactly as he had experienced in the game on this stage. Finding the exact angle of the attacks and manipulating the strikes to his advantage was the difficult part. Kang Jin-hyuk bent down and picked up a broken branch. This was in event mode, so no experience points would be added. At best, you could only secure a spot in the Hall of Fame. The Tree of Greed used its blood-sucking vine skill, sending countless vines attacking Kang Jin-hyuk. Although he was a veteran with this number, he couldn't dodge them all. However, with the broken branch in his hand, he deflected them, diverting the vine's attacks. There was nothing to fear. This was something he had done dozens of times before. Then, while deflecting the vines, he moved forward, finally preparing to reach the trunk. From within the trunk, a swarm of sleep butterflies flew out. They released sleeping powder at their opponent as a form of self-defense. Kang Jin-hyuk used one hand to cover his nose to complete this mission. He needed to get past them without inhaling the sleeping powder. It was easy enough. Just hold your breath. A few more steps and he lunged forward. Climbing onto the trunk, Kang Jin-hyuk used the branch to stab forcefully into the trunk, splitting it in two. Then he pulled out the core of the Tree of Greed. The system notification popped up. "Congratulations. You are the first person to defeat the Tree of Greed." He jumped down to the base of the tree, panting heavily. It was truly worth the hours he spent studying it. Now he was grateful for what he had done before. The system announced the achievement will be recorded in the Grand Hall of Fame tomorrow. Please enter your name here. Kang Jin-hyuk knew this trashy game was asking for his personal information. He asked, can all information be kept anonymous? He didn't want to make his personal information public at all. If he was discovered as the former top player, it would be a lot of trouble, but it seemed the system wouldn't fully accept it. It stated name unknown, face will be blurred, and voice will be altered. Since he couldn't change anything anyway, he just went with it. More important than this was gutting the Tree of Greed to get the wood crystal item. If eating a fruit only increased strength, agility, and magic by 3. This crystal gave a whopping 12 points. Each level up granted 3 points. So this crystal was equivalent to 4 level ups, considering all 50 floors. This was incredibly convenient. There was no other item more powerful than it. After consuming it, Kang Jin-hyuk opened the system to check its effect. The stats showed level 1 with strength, 5 agility, 6 vitality, 7 magic, 5 and 12 skill points. Class none, ultimate skill none, skills none. 12 skill points at just level 1. He was the strongest level 1. Just 1 hour later, the news that the first Tree of Greed had been defeated was posted online. The announcement stated that a video would be uploaded in 10 minutes. Netizens immediately exploded. This is insane. Just how pro does someone have to be to take it down? Some even cursed the system for being full of it. One netizen even said that guy just got lucky. The guy's brother, who used to be a top player, said that tree couldn't be defeated with some flimsy dance moves, but aside from the initial comments, the rest didn't believe it. They said Kang Jin-hyuk got lucky or cheated, but as soon as the video was uploaded, the doubtful comments vanished, and the crowd of critics who were so vocal before went completely silent. But in the end, they were all incredibly impressed, damn it. After Kang Jin-hyuk got home, showered, and read the comments on the forums on his main account, Many people knew he was a streamer who was immersed in this game all day, so they made tempting offers like 10 billion won providing money as he pleased. After all, billions of won was a lot. He had lived a very hard life struggling for food and paying rent late. He'd starve for days just to buy a portion of food for a mukbang stream. If these offers had come yesterday, he would have been overjoyed and accepted immediately. But now he had no intention of sharing his knowledge with anyone, not even for 10 billion won in hand. The most important thing now wasn't money, but exclusive information about this game. After all, when it was a game, you had countless lives to try, but when it became reality, you only had one. The moment the game was unveiled, mana from the Tower of Trials flooded all of Seoul. It didn't have any obvious effects, but there was one major change. Items outside the tower became sacred relics, but they were all fakes. To put it bluntly, they were knockoffs. Because the legendary sacred relics were inside the tower. According to online information, the National Museum of Korea had the most replicas. The National Museum of Korea was considered a treasure chest. With countless sacred relics inside, the problem was he wasn't the only one targeting the replicas. Unlike the Tree of Greed, which appeared regularly in 7 locations across Seoul, there was only one national museum. Others would come here from many places for the sacred relics, and among them there would surely be some top-ranked players. Pushing the door open, the atmosphere inside was much quieter than he expected. Just as he was wondering why no one had arrived yet, there was a smell of something burning. A charred person was already there. As expected, someone had gotten here first. Because times have changed. He thought others would adapt, but the gap between expectation and reality was much wider. After just one day, people had become so reckless. The thing they were aiming for must be the sacred relic that was stored. Inside the main medieval area lies the holy relic that everyone who comes here wants to possess. It contained the great map of the Eastern lands. Of course, he wasn't focused on a map of Korea. The great map was now imbued with magical energy. It held information about the Tower of Trials, which was why everyone wanted to get it. It would show the locations of labyrinths and ruins while also explaining the items found there. Although it only provided information up to the 10th floor, it was more than enough to ignite a fire in people's hearts. While they were all focused on it, they would miss the extremely important sacred relics, lying hidden beneath the mud. As expected, the scene inside was utter chaos. A crowd of people were using force and shouting matches to fight over the map. A muscular man who had just entered yelled out, "Everyone shut up. Anyone who moves will die by my hand." The people who were arguing found it laughable and retorted, "What nonsense, no one here is going to be scared by a few empty threats. You move a toe and I'll crush your skull." The muscular guy flexed, ripping his shirt, and used a unique skill to manifest 2 steel arms, smashing them together intimidatingly. The crowd didn't expect it to be so fast. He already had a skill. He didn't make it hard for them, just said, "Get lost, the map is mine," before the others could leave. An old man with his hands clasped behind his back walked over. "The map is yours, you say? I'm afraid I can't agree with that." The muscular guy turned to look at him and asked, "Hey, old man, are you crazy?" The old man calmly replied, "My name isn't Old Man, it's Min-jung-gu. The name means to live in harmony with plants and flowers." The muscular guy got even angrier. He had no desire to know this damn old man's name. Does he look like he cares about living in harmony? Look at my mood and get lost. I'll snap your wrinkly neck like a chicken's. The old man shook his head. So young, yet speaking like that. "However, between you breaking my neck and me turning you to ash, which one do you think is faster?" A flame erupted from his fingertip. With a soft word, the fire incinerated the man, leaving only his painful screams echoing in the air. A short-haired girl in a school uniform came out from behind him and exclaimed, "Fire magic is really something else." It's a good thing she decided to team up with him. Seeing the girl, Min-jung-gu let out an "oh" and asked, "Have you gotten the item yet?" He left the work here to her and turned to leave. Lee Juji gently placed a statue on the ground. It was of a creature with 2 human-like legs and the face and ears of a dog spirit. This guy will be enough. If anyone gets in the way, it will take care of them immediately. The dog spirit stretched and grew to a gigantic size. Lee Juji stood beside it with her arms crossed, looking at the remaining people whose faces had turned pale with fear. "From now on, anyone who moves will be considered an enemy, understood? I'll let it chew on your heads." After speaking, she flashed an innocent, lovely smile and asked the others, "Let's cooperate nicely, shall we?" The others could only curse "damn it," but couldn't do anything. So many tryhards had already shown up. They had no choice but to throw down their weapons and surrender. "I'll give up the map and the other stuff too." Just take it all. Li Juji clasped her hands together, her eyes smiling adorably. Thanking them before she could go and pick up the items, footsteps approached. Kang Jin-hyuk casually walked over to a piece of paper and spoke reproachfully. They've made a mess of this place. He bent down, picked up the paper, and dusted it off. Don't you people have any respect for history? But at least this one isn't torn. Li Juji's expression changed instantly, her mood flipping faster than a pancake as she looked at him grimly. Hey, carefree guy, you think I'm joking, huh? She immediately ordered the dog spirit get him. The dog spirit lunged forward with a long spear. Kang Jin-hyuk stood still and deflected the spear with a flick of his hand, carving a long groove into the floor. The people there thought it was insane. What the hell just happened? Is that even possible? He didn't even bother to dodge, and his hand was still unharmed. They didn't know Kang Jin-hyuk's current stats, so they were left dumbfounded by his recent performance. He looked at Li Juji and asked, "What will you do now? Your little puppy has lost its only weapon." Li Juji picked up her school bag and pulled out a few more statues with ox heads and horse faces. Who says I still have many other statues? Sacred relic statue of Anubis replica summoned. Large, dark, dog-shaped statues stood around Li Juji. Let's see if this guy can still smile now. Kang Jin-hyuk nodded. Not bad. This kid can summon 5 statues at once with just a small amount of mana. She's no pushover. She and that old man from before both had magic. It seems more people have escaped the newbie stage than he thought. Hearing Kang Jin-hyuk rate her as not bad, Li Juji immediately asked back, "Not bad? What do you mean, not bad?" Kang Jin-hyuk raised his hand to his chest level. Not bad, or more accurately, somewhere between so-so and okay about this level here. Li Juji found that irritating to hear and huffed twice. What's with the cool act? Kang Jin-hyuk said, "Oh, is that so? Then I'll let you see for yourself what the current gap between you and me is." He held up the painting he had just picked up. The system announced mana has been infused into Pine Forest Tiger replica. The ruler of the mountains has appeared. A supersized, gigantic tiger stepped out of the painting and stood beside Kang Jin-hyuk. He casually reached out and stroked its head. A stray dog dares to bare its fangs before the lord of the jungle. Go fix them all. Instantly, in a flash, the tiger lunged forward, tearing apart and destroying all the Anubis creatures that Li Juji had summoned. Although she had heard of many ways to control artifacts, she had never heard of this method. The power of this magic. It made her feel as if her own flesh was being torn apart. Knowing she couldn't win, Li Juji sank helplessly to the ground. She thought she had an ace up her sleeve, but who knew there was someone even more formidable? Kang Jin-hyuk put his hands in his pockets, walked over to her, and said, "Give it to me." Li Juji pulled her jacket tighter and asked, "What do you mean?" Seeing that she wasn't cooperating and was playing dumb, he crouched down and looked straight into her eyes. The mask of Tutankhamun. He knew she couldn't hide it. But she still wasn't willing to hand it over to him. It's useless in Korea anyway. What do you need it for? You don't want to do this the easy way. You want to do it the hard way. Kang Jin-hyuk beckoned the tiger over. Li Juji immediately screamed, "I'll give it to you, I'll give it to you, okay. It might be useless to others, but with this, he would be able to get the second artifact soon." Li Juji wondered, is he aiming for the great map of the Eastern lands? Only then did he remember about that map. I almost forgot about it. He patted the forest tiger, telling it to keep guarding this place. Don't let anyone pass. The preparations are complete now. It's time to get the strongest skill in the Tower of Trials. When Kang Jin-hyuk arrived, the old man Min Jung-gu was already there. Upon seeing him, he couldn't understand why that brat Li Juji would let this happen. Who was this kid and how did he get up here? Could it be that he defeated Li Juji to get here? Kang Jin-hyuk stood beside the old man, stroking his chin. "I think this is a one-star barrier." Min Jung-gu replied, "So it seems you know about this thing, huh?" He placed his hand on the barrier, was immediately jolted, and pulled it back. The old man had never seen anything like this before. Neither magical nor physical attacks had any effect on it. If he knew how to break it, he wouldn't have stood here waiting for him to arrive. Kang Jin-hyuk placed his hand on the barrier. Then he said he had a way to destroy this thing. But there was one condition: he had to continuously use fire magic to weaken this protective barrier. "You have to use magic until I go inside and bring out the necessary artifacts." Kang Jin-hyuk said he couldn't maintain the magic to weaken the barrier himself for that long. "You may not believe me, but this is the only way. I'll let you keep the map, because in the end I need something else." Min Young-woo knew the worst-case scenario that could happen. That all his efforts would be for nothing, but he couldn't just stand here until morning and leave empty-handed. He had no choice but to ask again. You promise you'll give me that map, right? After receiving a firm answer, he decided to trust him this time. The moment he cast his magic on the barrier, he dashed inside amidst shouts to hurry up. Kang Jin-hyuk would definitely do his best, but of course in his own way. Unlike the lower floors, it seemed very few people had been here, so everything was still neat and complete, of course. Except for the sharp sword with the engraving of Emperor Qianlong, someone had already come and gone. He was sure that the barrier was erected by that person who had planned to leave, after taking what they wanted, but that person didn't even know that what they took was merely a second-rate artifact. After searching for a while, he found what he needed, a string of Dangbekjeon coins, the final piece to complete his innate unique skill and make it the most powerful one. The other materials were a Persian ritual molding board and the right eye of Tutankhamun's mask. Placing the eye on the board caused the two artifacts to react. A notification appeared, one that only shows up when two compatible artifacts meet. Kang Jin-hyuk broke the string of coins. He was waiting for the notification asking him to pay a suitable price to proceed. As Kang Jin-hyuk paid the required amount from the string of Dangbekjeon coins, that the system required all three artifacts successfully reacted with each other. This granted him the artifact, the Eye of Truth. He could see other people's status windows and know if they were telling the truth or lying 3 times a day. Besides this eye, he came here for another reason. That was to complete the system's hidden quest, successfully combine 3 artifacts to create an artifact higher than S-Rank. He had met all the conditions to complete the quest. The system displayed a congratulatory message. He had obtained the unique skill synthesis. This skill allowed him to copy and store the exclusive skills of other players, to copy and store countless skills in this world, and to use those skills to create even more powerful skill combinations. That was the weapon that would make him the strongest in this Tower of Trials game. However, the conditions for copying a skill would change based on its difficulty. Just then, Min Young-gu from outside the barrier shouted at him to hurry up if he was done. He didn't think he could hold on much longer. Hearing his voice, Kang Jin-hyuk looked out and pondered, "Let's see, what do I need to copy that skill?" He stared intently at the old man. The system immediately received the command and displayed the copy condition. Min Young-gu has always hidden his emotions behind a mask. Make him reveal his true emotions. After reading it, he smirked. In other words, I just need to piss the old man off, right? He turned and told the old man he could stop using his skill now, because what you were doing had no effect from the start. Actually, one only needed to use Latin to break the barrier, so you didn't contribute at all. When I dashed in, I spoke Latin. I never needed your firepower. Next, he walked over to the map. He already knew everything about the tower. So this map, which only had information up to the 10th floor, was useless, but that didn't mean he would obediently hand it over. He could use it to piss the old man off. If others could obtain information up to the 10th floor through this map, then the possibility of someone surpassing him would increase. Therefore, the only way to secure his position was to eliminate that possibility. Seeing him hold a lighter, Min Jung-woo became extremely anxious. When the flames erupted and incinerated the map, the old man truly went mad with rage, his face flushing red as he roared. "You dog, I'll kill you! I'll chop you to pieces to vent my anger! Damn your ancestors! It was these loving curses from the old man that led to his success!" He copied the old man's fire element skill. This skill was copied and saved into the world's memory, allowing him to control fire and increasing his affinity with the element. At that moment, Min Young-woo still didn't understand what was happening. He tried to control fire to make him pay for his actions. Kang Jin-hyuk directly activated Fire Element Level 1. The old man realized the skill was identical to his own, but compared to him, his version was like a child's plaything. It seems this kid is anything but ordinary. Thinking back, what kind of ordinary person would say they didn't need the map? Pleased with his first successful copy, he leaned in and told the old man that if he wanted to climb the tower leisurely, he should listen carefully to what he was about to say. He would contact him later, and in the meantime, he wanted him and the girl downstairs to level up. Kang Jin-hyuk stretched and summarized. Including himself, 4 veterans had appeared at the National Museum of Korea. He also understood why they wanted to minimize their risk factors, especially now that the world had become the Tower of Trials. After looking at his stats window one more time, Kang Jin-hyuk thought to himself how incredibly cool he was. He now had a few pawns in his hand, but the road ahead was still long. First, he had to collect the necessary skills since he only had 1 life. Therefore, obtaining every skill was impossible, but he would snatch up all the best and most important ones along the way. On his way home, his stomach growled in protest, demanding food. At times like this, a bowl of bunbo gyoheo would hit the spot. He turned into a restaurant and sat at a table. The food hadn't arrived, but he noticed everyone in the place was focused on the screen. The TV was reporting that at least 23 people had died and 50 were injured at the National Museum of Korea, and the numbers were still climbing. It wasn't just Korea, similar incidents were happening in other countries too. Just as he thought, players worldwide had begun to move in preparation for climbing the tower. A video of him in the museum was also shown, but his face was blurred. Even so, many people still recognized him. The government had also begun investigating this mysterious tower, and they established a new organization called the Awakened Association, made up of individuals who possessed special abilities. The commander-in-chief of the newly formed Awakened Association is Han Sang-jin. He announced on TV that he was there to recruit more members who had awakened their abilities. Each person's level might be different, but the government promised to give each person a salary of up to $60 million per year and an official level 7 government position. He also extended an invitation to the person in the video, stating that if he joined them, they would give him anything he requested. As soon as the offer was made, the people in the restaurant began to buzz with excitement. They didn't know who he was, but they were incredibly envious. That was enough to change a person's entire life. Kang Jin-hyuk thought to himself that for the person in the video, it was a different story. So their target was him. But no matter how attractive the offer was, he wouldn't be joining them in this world. The value of one outstanding individual is higher than 100 average ones combined. Han Sang-jin understood that well, which is why he made such an offer to persuade him. He guessed that if Han Sang-jin was chosen as the commander, he must possess some kind of skill. If not, it's because he has a lot of experience with the Tower of Trials. I hope he has a good skill that would make copying it much more interesting. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the Tower of Trials would open. When it did, a crowd of people pushed their way inside. Most of them still couldn't believe this was real. As for Kang Jin-hyuk, he noted that this place was exactly the same as before. To celebrate entering the tower, each member was given 100 coins. Coins are the currency used inside the tower. Players can post videos of their achievements and will receive 100 coins for every 10,000 views. However, additional fees may apply depending on each player's status. The live streaming function can only be used when facing bosses to advance to the next floor. Anyone caught manipulating views or using other forms of cheating will be penalized. This is the bridge between those who want to climb the tower and those who just want to continue living outside. Viewers will choose players who have a chance of performing better on the upper floors, thereby increasing their views. The more famous a person is, the more coins they receive. Everyone is rushing to the Goblin Cave. If you find a good spot, farming is very easy. If you want to have fun, it's every man for himself. Everyone wants to clear the stage as quickly as possible and try to get ahead of others. Kang Jin-hyuk already knew all about this place, so earning coins would be easy. However, he didn't plan on uploading videos first. He could use videos to earn coins, but at the same time, the information he knew would be widely shared. That would be too great of a loss. So he decided the first thing he needed to do was something no one had ever done before. He recalled when the Tower of Trials was just a trash game. While fighting his way up to the 30th floor of the tower, he suddenly couldn't advance any further to get to the 31st floor. He had to go back down to the lower floors to search for hidden secrets, and this forced him to rely on his past experience and retrace his every step. In the end, he found the answer in an abandoned ruin. The answer was that his character was imperfect from the very beginning. Although reluctant, he accepted it, giving up his previous time and effort to delete his character and start over from scratch. After reminiscing, he went to a maze called Labyrinthos. This maze was special because of its complexity and the countless different traps made to stop intruders. The key to overcoming the 30th floor was to build a foundation and find the key hidden within this maze. He never expected that after 6 years he would have to go through this again. Just thinking about it made his face turn pale. Although he truly hated this place, he still had to go in. Inside, while he was reminiscing about old memories, he discovered a group of people was already there. When he asked who they were, the girl in pink replied with a wide smile. They were planning to find a place to farm, but ultimately decided to come in here before this maze closed 10 minutes ago. They had a feeling that something would happen if they followed him, and they discovered he could open the maze door without a key. Moreover, they thought a place a level 1 person could enter wouldn't be dangerous, so they followed him in. One of them asked the girl in pink, Do you think he'll be kind and share items with us? She casually replied, of course not. We just need to let him rest in peace in there forever and it'll be over. Right now, she stood in front of Kang Jin-hyuk acting cute and harmless, suggesting they go together since people say there's safety in numbers. It seemed they were targeting him because they thought they had more people. This girl in pink was probably the leader to be sure. While Park Hana was introducing herself, he had activated the Eye of Truth. This girl's stats were displayed. She had 3 skills: socializing, quick walk, and low-grade recovery. With the socializing skill, she had the ability to get acquainted and become close with people she just met very naturally. This skill was special in that it could erase the incompatibility between two sides. The copy condition required spending at least 240 hours with Park Hana. However, after 240 hours, no one else could be around him while he was with Park Hana one by one. The rest of the group also introduced their names and levels to him. Most were new players on the first floor or hadn't played yet. Because he wanted to copy Park Hana's skill to be useful on other floors, he also mimicked her smiling with crinkled eyes. Introducing himself, "My name is Kang Jin-hyuk," just so it sounds nice. The fact that this group planned to betray him was as clear as day. What's the point of remembering their names anyway? Park Hana intimately hugged his arm, called him sweetly, and asked what floor he had reached in the Tower of Trials. Park Hana used her socializing skill, placing a hand on his shoulder and gently stroking his arm. Kang Jin-hyuk placed his hand on her shoulder, pushed her away, and said, "Don't cling to me like that. I just play as far as I can get." So this is how the skill works. If he hadn't known beforehand, he would have fallen head over heels for her. Park Hana didn't understand why her skill wasn't working, but still smiled sweetly and asked him with a cutesy voice to tell her about the characteristics of the maze and the types of monsters that appear in it. Kang Jin-hyuk replied, "That's not difficult. This maze changes its layout after a certain period of time." As soon as he finished speaking, the ground and rocks began to shake, and the group had to constantly dodge. Otherwise, they would be crushed by the maze's shifting. The shifting just ended. Their group had lost one person. They still couldn't believe it. "The first floor has a maze like this. I thought everywhere was the same except for the ruins." Kang Jin-hyuk dusted off his clothes and asked, "Haven't you all experienced a shifting maze at least once?" "Why are you so surprised?" one person yelled. "Who would be crazy enough to go through something like this?" Park Hana also felt this place was too dangerous for level 1 and wanted to leave quickly. She told a girl named Himin in the group to use her skill to find the exit. The brown-haired girl named Himin answered in a panic with tears in her eyes. Because the maze shifted, the skill was canceled. In other words, they were trapped here. At this point, Kang Jin-hyuk understood everything. He had been wondering why this group had so confidently rushed in after him. Now hearing them argue, he knew it was just because they were relying on a basic navigation skill. Clearly, these newbies knew nothing, thinking entering a maze was as easy as going to the market. They really were idiots, but now it was almost time for that thing to start appearing. After arguing with her companions, Park Hana also dropped her sweet and cute act and yelled at him, "What do you mean the maze changes? Why didn't you tell us something so important sooner?" Walls were just flying everywhere from all 4 sides. "We had to focus on dodging constantly, so now we're all scraped up." "It's your fault we almost died." One of the guys in the group chimed in. "That's right, that bastard knew everything from the beginning." Kang Jin-hyuk let out a sigh. He looked at them as if they were a bunch of lunatics and said grimly, "Did I ever ask you people to follow me? You yourselves said you would voluntarily come with me, right? I didn't force or drag anyone in here they couldn't be reasoned with. The guys in their group started cursing you, son of a gun. It's your fault we're stuck here. I've hated you since the moment I laid eyes on you, since it has come to this anyway." They immediately turned on him unexpectedly. While he was still running his mouth, a flying axe came and took him down directly. A growling minotaur monster appeared in front of the whole group. They thought they were goners when Kang Jin-hyuk shot forward from behind. As he dodged the monster's axe swing, he successfully obtained the hidden stat gap. This stat allows one to close the power gap when facing a strong opponent and widen it when facing a weak enemy. For every 3 stat points, it closes the power gap by the equivalent of 1 level. When facing a stronger opponent, Kang Jin-hyuk jumped up, touched the bull's horn as a pivot to push it away, and then landed softly on the ground after countless trials and errors. This was the best method he had found. This method would make him stronger. While still at level 1, the bull opened its mouth wide, growled, and charged, but he still dodged it by stepping aside. The gap stat increased by 0.05. His body had already memorized its attack patterns. So continuously dodging was a piece of cake. Each time he jumped to dodge an attack, he gained more gap stat. The people in Park Hana's group watched him toy with the giant bull like a bullfighter. They were frozen stiff. Were they really planning to pick a fight with someone so terrifying? Even Park Hana, upon seeing that bull, realized her previous plan to kill the monster and loot its items was insane. The bull swung a bunch of times, but couldn't even touch a single hair on him. It snorted angrily, staring at him. He looked at the bull and deliberately provoked it. "You're too slow. If you just keep swinging back and forth like that, when will you ever hit me?" As expected, the bull went berserk and attacked him with its axe, using all its strength. Kang Jin-hyuk dodged the blow but intentionally let the axe blade graze his skin. He wanted to get stronger quickly. You just need to risk your life, high risk, high reward. Each time he had a close call like that, the system would announce you have narrowly dodged a fatal attack. Your gap stat has increased by 1. Losing a few drops of blood to gain 1 stat point wasn't too bad, but if he made one wrong step, it could be very dangerous. He had collected. This many stats is enough. Perhaps it's time to end this. Glancing over, he saw that crowd of extras trying to sneak away along the wall. He immediately jumped next to them and said grimly, "Where do you think you're going? If you want to raise your stats, you should do the same thing. You just need to dodge its attacks to get the hidden stat. It sounds harder than it is. It's not that difficult. Go on and try. Good fortune should be shared, right?" Of course, he would save a portion for them. That bull chased him to where the group was standing and swung its axe, causing them all to freeze in fear. Kang Jin-hyuk could only reach out and pull Park Hana away. After all, he still wanted to copy her skills. Besides them, only Jang Cheo-sik, who had retreated to a corner, survived. The rest were turned into mincemeat under the bull's axe. Kang Jin-hyuk put his hands in his pockets and clicked his tongue twice. Good grief. Why are you still standing there frozen like that? You guys should have dodged or moved away from it. Right, little calf. Just as the bull was about to attack him again, Kang Jin-hyuk raised his hand and waved goodbye. "See you later." The walls of the maze shifted, forming a new path and separating them from the minotaur, leaving it raging in frustration. Park Hana and Jang Cheo-sik were panting, heavily terrified. The two of them had just narrowly escaped death, but all their comrades were dead. Park Hana asked, "Have we lost it yet? It won't chase us anymore, right?" Before Jang Cheo-sik could answer, Kang Jin-hyuk explained that the minotaur was attracted to the phosphorescent substance from the moth he had touched earlier, so it will definitely continue to chase us. Of course, he did it on purpose to raise his stats. He bent down, picked up a knife someone had dropped, and pointed it at the other two. "Every time the maze changes, we get a little break, and when that calf arrives, we get to play with it again." It's incredibly efficient, isn't it? Park Hana couldn't even imagine it. "So how much longer do we have to do this?" Kang Jin-hyuk held up one finger. "Until we leave the maze, to be precise, 1 month. Hearing they had to stay in this living hell for another 30 days, the two immediately tried to stand up. They would find another way. If they weren't with him, they wouldn't be attacked by that monster. Kang Jin-hyuk nodded in agreement. "That's right, so which way are you guys planning to go? Wandering around blindly will be much more dangerous." Hearing his question, the other two froze. Besides that monster, this maze was constantly changing. They couldn't get out even if it didn't change, let alone when it changed so quickly. Park Hana swallowed and asked softly, "So do you know where the exit is, Mr. Jin-hyuk?" Kang Jin-hyuk gently stroked the tip of the knife and replied, "I told you I know this maze better than anyone. Obviously, I know where the exit is." In other words, the two of them had no other choice. Park Hana was not very willing, but she had to accept it. "We will go too." Before she could finish her sentence, he shouted, Hey, nothing in this world is free, you know? If you want to eat without working, you can only eat dirt. Cough up all your coins. You don't just get what you want." Following him and still putting on such a reluctant face. While they were in the maze, a video with the title, Tower of Trials First Floor Goblin Dungeon Fastest Clear Time, went viral on the Hall of Fame. Netizens outside the tower expressed how amazing this player was. Someone even said, "Did this guy really solo for 15 hours straight? If it were me, I would have crapped my pants." The video jumped to the top spot, and the entire forum was constantly discussing this player. This was Myung-gwan. In reality, it wasn't just him, but a group of friends who took down the goblins together, then cleverly edited the footage. The group had already earned 1,000 coins. Amidst the group's celebration, Myung-gwan puffed out his chest. This was a collective effort from everyone. "Thanks, guys." Suddenly, a comment from someone named The Mediator appeared on the video saying, "You call 15 hours short. I know someone who cleared it in 5 hours." When the group saw it, they just mocked the person for talking nonsense. Anyone can talk big. Anyway, there are countless haters. Why bother with them? Following that, a new video was uploaded with the title, I am the first person in the world to successfully enhance an item to +10. Without a doubt, this video shot up to the first rank, pushing Myongguan's video down to second. The views on this video were skyrocketing. The comments were also filled with disbelief. The probability of successfully enhancing this item is equivalent to 1 in 8.14 million to the power of 10. 10 minutes earlier in the maze, Kang Jin-hyuk wore a ferocious expression like a slave driver. Exploiting labor, now pay attention. Stop standing around like idiots and get to work. We need to gather moss for beds and wood to start a fire, so there's a lot to do. Jang Cheo-sik replied, I know I'm going all right. This guy is truly detestable. He took all their coins and is now ordering them around. After sending the two off to find moss and wood, Kang Jin-hyuk began to exchange items. Currently, the number of coins he possessed had reached 5,000, so he had to deal with these coins first. One magical tarot card, a piece of an old bronze key. A fragment of a wooden cart, 10 scrolls of random enhancement. This only cost 550 coins because these were trash items no one wanted to buy, but if used correctly, they would become incredibly important. By combining the tarot card, the key fragment, and the cart fragment, he would get Fortuna's Wheel of Fortune, the unfinished version of the Goddess of Luck's item. His luck would be maximized for 10 minutes. However, because it was unfinished, its range of use was limited, and it could only be used once. He reached out and pulled hard to spin the wheel. In an instant, his luck was maxed out. Next, he used the scroll of random enhancement on his knife. The success rate for enhancement was 0.000012%. What a rate if it's second worst, nothing is first. But if luck is raised to its absolute limit, the success rate becomes 100%. He decided to use all the enhancement attempts on this knife. The system displayed a notification: you have obtained old knife plus 10 max. At the same time, because he was the first person to create a plus 10 enhanced item on the entire Korean server, he would receive an additional 5,000 coins. This achievement will be recorded in the Hall of Fame. This is why Myongguan's video dropped to second place. He finally had a weapon worth using. He joyfully swung that knife with a few skillful slashes in the air to test it. 10 days passed in a flash, but for Park Hana and Jang Cheo-sik it felt like an eternity in hell. The two of them huddled by the fire, feeling extremely anxious. Everything here was terrible. The beds were made of moss, the food was nothing but moss and mushrooms, and that crazy minotaur kept appearing. If the maze didn't shift constantly, they would have been dead long ago. On top of that, there was this godlike guy who treated everything as if it were nothing. The two of them were scared to the point of depression while he slept and snored soundly as usual. If this continued, they would really die. After being used by that guy, they would just be thrown away. Park Hana had no choice but to go online anonymously to ask for help from people outside the tower, but unexpectedly, she didn't get any good advice. One person told them, why don't you just sit still? Clearly you can't do a damn thing. Another person told them not to cause trouble. Looking at that pale face, it's obvious you're a newbie. Park Hana asked if anyone knew anything about that person. But unfortunately, all the videos related to the person who had played the Tower of Trials before had been blocked. From YouTube to personal blogs, even videos on her phone had disappeared as if they had all been hacked. Park Hana could only hold her head in her hands, unable to believe it. To think I sought help from those idiots outside the tower. Hey, MD, have you told the boss about the situation here yet? What did Will Raven say? The people outside replied in unison, Will is looking into it. Since there's no information on this maze, Will Raven's people will need at least 3 weeks to reach you two. This meant she had to endure this situation. For at least 3 more weeks. It's already been 10 days. 3 more weeks would make it exactly 1 month, just as that guy said. Who knows if they'd still be alive by then? With no information at all, she sat cross-legged, staring at Kang Jin-hyuk's detestable back. I'm thinking if we kill the bastard lying here, barricade ourselves in the room we found earlier, and wait for the boss to arrive, we might be able to escape. The problem is, how do we kill him? No sooner said than done, Jang Cheo-sik immediately picked up a rock. While he's sleeping like this, it's a perfect opportunity, isn't it? Let's do it now. Even if he's strong, no one can survive a blow to the head. He raised the rock high, about to smash it down on him, when Park Hana reached out to stop him and whispered, his reflexes are godlike. Whether we face him head-on or ambush him, we don't stand a chance of winning. He'll definitely wake up the moment you're about to attack. And then he'll counterattack, you'll see. Hearing her say that, Jang Cheo-sik also got scared, but he couldn't just keep suffering like this. Park Hana rummaged through her bag. Her older brother, a member of Will Raven, had given her something for dangerous situations. It was the stinger of a zucchini giant hornet. One drop of this poison is enough to melt 100 goblins. If they were going to do it, they had to do it decisively and in a way that wouldn't endanger them when Kang Jin-hyuk woke up. Jang Cheo-sik and Park Hana had already prepared the food. To call it a meal was a stretch, as it was just mushrooms and moss with chopsticks made from rat bones and plates from tree bark. Hearing him ask, "Is this all there is?" Park Hana retorted, "What else do you want? There's nothing else to eat around here. If you want something, go hunt rats and butterflies yourself. You're still being picky at a time like this." Kang Jin-hyuk didn't complain anymore, just told Park Hana to give him the water flask and asked Jang Tae-sik for a few more mushrooms. Jang Tae-sik pushed a few mushrooms onto his plate. "I can't believe you like disgusting things like this. Here you go." Park Hana handed him the water flask, thinking to herself that this was unbelievable, that she had to be here serving him like this. The people in the Hall of Fame, watching everything through Park Hana, were also thrilled, constantly telling him to eat more. This is what you call eating yourself to death. Hana was also secretly delighted to see him eat the mushrooms with relish, but unexpectedly the plate of mushrooms fell and scattered all over the ground, and it wasn't from Kang Jin-hyuk. It was Jang Tae-sik who coughed up a mouthful of black blood as a deathly aura erupted from his throat, causing him to clutch his neck and collapse to the ground. How foolish these people are. Did they really think he would eat the food they gave him? They were stupid, but he wasn't. When he asked for more food, he had already swapped their plates while their backs were turned. He opened his system interface and glanced at her. You should know that secretly broadcasting is considered cheating. The broadcast function is only permitted when fighting a boss monster that blocks the path to the next floor. Anyone caught manipulating views or using other forms of cheating will receive a corresponding penalty. He opened the system and selected Report Cheating. The system prompted, if no wrongdoing is detected, the reporter will be penalized. Do you wish to proceed? Amidst her screams demanding proof, he calmly pressed the yes button. You should see the look on your own face while you're broadcasting. It couldn't be more obvious, could it? I didn't expect things to turn out like this so soon after arriving. I'm a bit disappointed, Park Hana. As soon as his report went through, a red warning circle appeared around her. Apprehension complete anonymity cloak will be removed. Even her viewers were forcibly banned from watching videos for 1 month, and as for the penalty for the violator herself, it was a cruel fate indeed. Before she could even process her punishment, the giant minotaur found them again. Park Hana seemed to develop temporary amnesia, forgetting she had just tried to kill Kang Jin-hyuk and hid behind him. You're going to fight this time too, right? Just tell me which way I should run. Hurry, it's almost here. Kang Jin-hyuk didn't turn around. Miss Park Hana, you truly have no shame, do you? You people just tried to poison me, so why on earth would I tell you which way to go? Park Hana's face turned pale as she stammered. She had simply taken it for granted because he had always protected her since they met. Too bad for her, his reason for doing so was now gone. The system displayed the conditions for copying Park Hana's skill and announced that he had met the conditions. Copy successful. The skill was diplomacy, so now he no longer needed her alive. Park Hana screamed, "Wait, you're going to regret this. My boss is a member of the Raven Guild." As she finished speaking, the Minotaur smashed its fist where they stood, sending her flying. Kang Jin-hyuk spoke to her as she lay on the ground. Make sure you watch carefully from where you are. So you'll learn who you should fear more, me or that silly little guild. With that, he charged forward with his blade slashing at the Minotaur's head. It was still a weak attack, but it dealt damage. His efforts to close the gap with this monster were not in vain. He couldn't kill it yet anyway, so all he had to do was evade its attacks and stay alive. Kang Jin-hyuk used a fire element to scorch it. While the Minotaur was distracted, he leaped behind it and delivered a kick that forced it down onto one knee. He stood behind it as it knelt still. Don't go crazy on me now. Tensing all your muscles like that will make the meat too tough. He said this deliberately, waiting for the moment it would play its trump card. Just as he expected, a system notification appeared. The Minotaur Guardian of the Labyrinth has activated the skill Berserk State Level 10. For 5 minutes from activation, its attack power, attack speed, and axe swing speed will increase by 30%. Its intelligence is temporarily boosted, enabling it to speak its opponent's language. The Minotaur flexed and let out a roar that echoed through the labyrinth. You human! I will crush you and scatter your remains all over this dungeon, so you can never defile this place again. Kang Jin-hyuk stood before the colossal monster blade in hand. It seemed his magic proficiency had grown. He raised his blade into a ready stance and beckoned it forward. Come on! Whenever the monster attacked, Kang Jin-hyuk stopped dodging and met its blows head-on with his blade. Kang Jin-hyuk was thoroughly enjoying this confrontation. Before, he had hated having to start over from the beginning, no matter how far he had progressed. He felt powerless knowing that nothing would ever truly change. Whether in real life or in the game, everything was hellishly difficult. However, after dying countless times in that trash game, he could finally feel this world responding to him. It was as if this world had been created just for him. After numerous clashes, his gap stat rose relentlessly. You're just pretending to be strong, human. In the end, you can't even put a scratch on me. As soon as it said that, it fell silent. Its buff had expired. Berserk was a skill that unleashed ultimate power for 5 minutes. However, once that time runs out, the user is immobilized for 24 hours. Kang Jin-hyuk didn't attack it, instead turning to check his gap points. It was up to 57 points. In terms of levels, that meant he had closed the gap by 19 levels. With 20 days left, he would reach his goal of 100 points soon enough at this pace. Seeing the crazed minotaur motionless, Park Hana asked, "Is it over?" Kang Jin-hyuk smiled brightly and replied it only stopped because its berserk skill wore off. "If we wait for one more day, it'll be back on our tail. We still have 20 days, so what's the rush?" 20 days later, after dodging a barrage of slashes from the minotaur, he gained another 0.015 gap points, reaching his goal of 100. The moment he hit the mark, he launched himself up, delivered a powerful uppercut that sent the minotaur reeling and landed on its horn. "Farewell, Black Bull." After finishing off the monster, he turned to Park Hana. "As of now, I am officially recruiting an intern for the Duelling Company. You seem to lack a bit of drive, though, not interested." Seeing the look on his face, Park Hana's attitude changed immediately. "I'm interested. Please let me join. I've been hoping to join this company for a long time." Seeing the candidate's sudden enthusiasm, Kang Jin-hyuk asked an interview question. "What can you do for the company in the future?" Park Hana answered that her unique skill was diplomacy. She believed the skill would be useful for the company's future projects. Kang Jin-hyuk moved closer, staring into her eyes. "I am now announcing that the Duelling Company's first applicant is unqualified." Seeing the murderous look in his eyes, a terrified Park Hana racked her brain for anything else she could offer. She dropped to her knees and clung to his leg. "I'll give you Abraham's ring. My brother traded Korean ginseng with the Chinese for it. Please just spare my life." Abraham's ring was one of the best items that could be obtained. On the first floor, it granted the wearer increased movement speed, magic resistance, and the ability to block a monster's magic. Even though she was scared out of her wits, Kang Jin-hyuk still activated his Eye of Truth to check her trustworthiness. His trust in her was already at negative infinity. Only after the system confirmed her words were true did he believe her. The ring was currently with the Raven Guild. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Congratulations, Park Hana, on becoming an intern at the Duelling Company." He then informed her of the employee benefits and duties. "The main benefit is that the company doesn't pay its interns. The main duty is that you must appear whenever I call. Whether it's at 3 in the morning or on Jeju Island, you must obey. And of course, we need a contract." If she ran off after they left the labyrinth, how would he ever find that ring? Park Hana assumed she would have to sign a paper contract, but Kang Jin-hyuk had already opened the Akashic records. He combined his diplomacy skill with his fire element skill to obtain a soul stigma. A brilliant blue flame appeared in his hand. Kang Jin-hyuk gripped Park Hana's shoulder with his other hand. "This is going to be a little hot. Welcome to the Duelling Company, intern." The soul stigma was branded onto Park Hana's face. With this seal, she must obey every command from the caster. Any action that could harm the caster is forbidden. Failure to comply with these terms will inflict excruciating pain upon the branded individual. After being forced into a slave contract with this budding capitalist, the labyrinth finally opened, revealing the light of day. After a month trapped inside, Park Hana fell to her knees on the grass, breathing deeply. The system announced, "You have successfully completed the first time clear of the first floor's labyrinth. Your clear will be broadcast in the Hall of Fame. Each player will receive 5,000 coins." Park Hana's eyes filled with tears of joy as she accepted the coins, the reward for all her hardships. Kang Jin-hyuk approached and called out intern. Overjoyed and eager to receive her reward, she enthusiastically replied, "Yes, sir." Who would have guessed that Kang Jin-hyuk would hold out his hand and command, "Give it all to me." That one sentence from her boss sent Park Hana plummeting from heaven to hell. Ignoring the crying company intern, Kang Jin-hyuk tallied up his coins. He now had a total of 10,000 coins. At this point, he was undoubtedly the wealthiest person around. After the robbery, he ordered Park Hana to retrieve Abraham's ring and bring it to him in 3 days. When she said 3 days was too short, Kang Jin-hyuk directly used his soul stamp skill, shortening the deadline to 2 days. With a fresh handprint on her face, Park Hana weakly replied, "Yes, I will try my best to get it." As the two of them passed a shopping mall, they heard the news that the Gun Guild would represent South Korea to attack the boss in 1 week. Everyone in the Gun Guild knew that they were currently members of the #1 guild in South Korea. Because the US, Europe, and Japan were still struggling, expectations for them were quite high. It had only been a month, yet they were already preparing to attack the third-floor boss. Even he was not in that much of a hurry. Kang Jin-hyuk wondered just how much that guy would regret it when he met that boss. He understood that everyone was anxious to claim the resources within the tower. The sooner the better, but the fixed time for each floor was a full 90 days. In other words, there was no need to even go to the 2nd floor yet, let alone the 3rd floor. If their strength was insufficient while the difficulty increased the moment they set foot in that world, the crushing pressure of the difficulty would be immense. If humanity were to collapse, you could not just start over like in a game. The first thing to do was go home, take a shower, and then gather information on what had happened over the past month. To get quality information in a society rife with useless news and misinformation like this, he needed people he could trust. A reliable source he had known for a long time was none other than the friends he used to grind with in the game Tower of Trials a few years ago, one of whom was a boy in a bee and butterfly shirt. His real name was Lee Taemin, and a girl wearing gloves with a pink floaty was named Jo Jong-ah. They met in real life at a cafe. One of them was a seemingly well-behaved young man, and the other was a girl with a bit of an attitude. Even he, who had been their leader in the game, never expected their first meeting to be like this. Kang Jin-hyuk activated the Eye of Truth to see their stats. Just as he had thought, Lee Taemin had obtained the unique skill Imperial Machine. It was a unique skill specializing in large-scale battles. Aside from its massive mana consumption, there was nothing to complain about. Jo Jong-ah also had a unique skill. It was the skill Extreme Taekwondo, specializing in close-quarters combat. Given their similar levels, he guessed the two had been farming monsters together. The condition to copy it was for the 3 of them to reach the 20th floor together. Seeing him remain silent for a while, Lee Taemin spoke up. "Hey, it is your turn." Startled, Kang Jin-hyuk introduced himself, also giving his nickname Ungabon. He was 27 years old and used to be a streamer on BJTV. Upon hearing this, Lee Taemin immediately said, "If you are that streamer, I have been a long-time follower." However, he had quit by now. Seeing him hesitate, he waved his hand. "Come on, just keep talking. It has been a long time since we have been able to meet in the game." Jo Jong-ah chimed in. "That is right, just be comfortable." It seemed both of them were quite approachable. He was so tired of constantly dealing with people who were just waiting to betray and exploit him. But even though this was their first time meeting, he felt completely at ease with them. He could speak to them without reservation and ask about what had happened outside. The maze in the past month. After they told him about the developments of Guild's worldwide streaming trends on BGTV and a group called My, that specializes in kidnapping players and running coin factories, Taemin asked him where he had been. "A whole month. That means you have not taken the test yet." "Right." Kang Jin-hyuk took a spoonful of ice cream and looked at him in confusion. What test? The 3 of them got into a taxi, and as they drove, Lee Taemin explained about the Tower of Trials. As soon as it appeared, people swarmed it in droves. But from the 2nd floor onwards, the number of deaths began to skyrocket. So South Korea began to prohibit people who could not pass a test from ascending to the upper floors. And upon completing the test, you get an authentication code stamped on your hand. Jo Jong-ah held out her hand to show him the code. As soon as he heard that, he understood the situation. It seemed Han Sang-jin, the chairman of the Awakened Association, had successfully devised a method to recruit talented individuals under the pretext of reducing the number of casualties. On the 2nd floor, he made everyone believe him, if that was how the association operated. Then he would exploit it in his own way. Since the test's introduction, those who received an F rank were barred from the 2nd floor. However, if a player achieved a high score, the government and guilds would come flocking to recruit them. For this reason, there were 3 types of people at the testing area. The first type wanted to be a top ranker, even if just a D rank, or E rank, anything was fine. The second type were there to support potential tower climbers and report for the media. The third type were the powerful individuals who had already proven themselves to the world. Whenever they showed up, the media would go into a frenzy. For example, there was Park Hana, who had survived the maze along with her brother Park Ha-jin, the rising star of the Wee Raven Guild. Behind the two was Kim Ki-tae from Weabi Gladiator. As soon as the three of them appeared, camera flashes went off continuously, unwilling to miss a single shot. Their bodyguards went ahead, pushing the crowd aside to clear a path for them. With so many people here, are they holding a concert or something? Those arrogant bodyguards are pushing everyone. Cannot they see people are walking here? Move to the side. Move it. Do not block the path. One of them pointed directly at a confused Kang Jin-hyuk. What do you think you are doing? Did not you hear me say to move? Kang Jin-hyuk saw how aggressive that guy was. He then pointed to himself and asked, "Get out of the way. Why should I do that? I am waiting for my turn." "Why are you telling me to move aside?" Seeing that his bodyguard could not handle the situation, Park Ha-jin rushed forward and poked Kang Jin-hyuk in the chest. "I do not know what you want, but you are making a huge mistake. It is not too late, so back off before I lose my temper." Before Kang Jin-hyuk could even respond, the crowd began to whisper, asking if he was insane. If that guy gets mad, he is a dead man for sure. Amidst the crowd's murmuring, he realized the scumbag in front of him was the older brother Park Ha-jin that Park Hana always talked about. He stared at the man and activated his Eye of Truth to see his stats. His unique skill was Black Death Strike. His other skills were Sprint Stealth and Thunder Breathing. The copy condition was, if friendship with the target reached its maximum, he could copy the unique skill. If animosity with the target reached its maximum, he could copy any skill he desired. The moment he saw the words maximum animosity, his eyes lit up. Was not this his specialty? Seeing him just staring, Park Ha-jin continued to poke him in the chest. "I am doing all this, and he is not even reacting. I have eyes and ears everywhere, you know. Do you really think you can get away with this?" Park Hana approached to ask her brother what was happening, but before she could finish, she saw the man he was confronting. Her face instantly paled in terror as if she had seen a ghost. Why on earth did her brother provoke this terrifying man? Kang Jin-hyuk grabbed the finger pointing at him and snapped it backward. After breaking the man's finger, Kang Jin-hyuk calmly took out a water bottle for a drink. Park Ha-jin roared in anger. "You bastard, I am going to tear you to shreds!" As he charged forward, Kang Jin-hyuk splashed the rest of the water in his face and then kicked the back of his knee, sending Park Ha-jin sprawling. The crowd around them could not comprehend what had just happened. Did he slip or dislocate a joint? Kim Ki-tae stepped forward and said, "Just leave it." Kang Jin-hyuk activated his Eye of Truth to check the man's stats, but unexpectedly the system announced a failure. The level difference exceeds the allowable limit. The skill has been nullified. This guy must be over level 20, while he himself was only level 1. Kang Jin-hyuk looked at him. "I did not know this guy came with a babysitter." Kim Ki-tae replied, "He is indeed a bit of a nuisance, but I tolerate him because he is useful." "Is it because he is supplying Korean ginseng to the Chinese? Do not ask how I know. The how is not important. Why do not you ask a more practical question? Like, for instance, how to handle the side effects of that Korean ginseng?" Seeing that this man knew a lot, Kim Ki-tae directly activated Black Screen Level 3. It created a barrier, leaving only the two of them facing each other inside. In short, he wanted to trade that information for 10 exclusive dungeons from the man, but the man was skeptical about whether he truly knew anything. Korean ginseng is a famous consumable item with excellent health and mana recovery abilities, but if eaten raw, the user will suffer a concurrent poison effect. It's like a side effect for a side effect. So his guild had struggled quite a bit, and he told him that to handle it, they just needed 3 items, Karasian Essence Moonstone, and most importantly, the root of a mandragora. The other 2 were easy. Only the root was something he didn't know where to find. So when they made the deal, he would tell him where to find them, and Kang Jin-hyuk asked him if he seemed more trustworthy now. Kim Kite had no choice but to believe him, because what he said perfectly matched the information from the guild's research and exploration team. Who on earth was this guy to know such things? He pointed the yellow blade straight at his face, and although he accepted the deal, if he tried any tricks, he'd better watch out even with this information. The demand for the 10 most valuable dungeons that the guild had monopolized was still too high a price. He wanted to make a show of force to show him his limits, but unexpectedly Kang Jin-hyuk directly drew his knife and knocked his blade aside. "It seems you're misunderstanding something. The one making the offer here is me on the outside." Dao Chan Vitamin and Jo Jong-ah stood back to back as soon as the black shield was deactivated. Kang Jin-hyuk stepped out unharmed and told the two to calm down. Lithium rushed forward and said, "Just give the order. You only need to say one word." And I'll paint the floor red with their blood. He raised both hands and said it was okay. On the other side, Kim Kite had just stepped out of the black shield and immediately turned to leave. Park Ha-jin, unwilling to let it go, called out to him, "Wait, are you just going to let them go like that?" He thought that with just one more chance he would deal with them right away. Kim Kite, who was already annoyed, ran into this idiot. He grabbed him by the neck and lifted him high. "He's not someone a guy like you can touch. If you act rashly on your own again, I'll make you regret it." "You got it." Park Ha-jin, being choked to the point of suffocation, hastily replied, "I understand." The whole group turned and left, leaving him struggling, clutching his neck as he knelt on the floor, coughing violently. He didn't know what the hell had happened inside that barrier to humiliate him like this. "By any means necessary, I have to kill that bastard." While Park Ha-jin was kneeling on the ground with a flushed red face, muttering curses continuously, Kang Jin-hyuk's copy condition was also met. He chose to copy his thunder breath skill. With this skill, he could regulate his own breathing and heart rate. Now it's time to take the test. Looking at the rankings, Park Hana was at the top. He whistled, "Oh ho, did his company's trainee eat ginseng before the test or something to get a score of 1,775? Impressive, nearly double the person in second place." Next, it was his turn to enter the test room. The person in charge gave a simple introduction to the test content. The test taker will strike the mana stone and they can use any item or unique skill they want. This test will measure the mana when striking the stone. The person in charge saw him holding a blade and asked, "Are you only planning to use a weapon?" Kang Jin-hyuk replied, "That's all I need." He walked to the largest mana stone in the room, and the person in charge called out, "Mr. Jin-hyuk, that's a mid-grade mana stone. Please use this low-grade one." Normal people can't even scratch mid-grade or higher mana stones. Ignoring him, Kang Jin-hyuk began to activate all of his gap stats. It was time to see if all that time struggling in the labyrinth had paid off. Then, with a single swing of his blade, the entire mid-grade mana stone was instantly split in two. The person in charge's jaw dropped in astonishment, unable to believe it. Most of those who were eliminated. It was because their mana was not enough to reach the minimum threshold of the mana stone, but to be strong enough to cut a stone that large in half. He had never seen anything like it. The person in charge showed him the results. His measured mana reached 20,895, achieving an S-rank. He told him to wait a moment while he reported to his superiors. Kang Jin-hyuk told him to wait. "I hope you can postpone that report for a week for me. I have personal reasons. After a week, you can report whatever you want. I don't care." Seeing that he was still hesitant to send the report, he raised his knife to threaten him. "I've learned many things in life. One of them is that distant water can't put out a nearby fire. You get it too right." Leaving the test room, he leaned against the wall to wait for his trainee. As soon as Park Hana saw him, she held out a ring. "I've come to deliver what you asked for." Kang Jin-hyuk happily accepted it. "I told you I'd make it in time," but then she saw him take it and turn his back to leave. Park Hana burst into tears and followed him. "I kept my promise, so you have to take this off." He walked straight on, waving his hand and saying, "We'll see. Why would I be stupid enough to take it off? I need to see what else it can do." Coming out of the testing area upon hearing, he got an F-rank vitamin, and Jo Young-A seemed quite skeptical. They were sure his rank would be higher than theirs. Kang Jin-hyuk replied that this was just a temporary rank. He would get re-evaluated next week, so they'd figure it out. Then he told them not to worry and to just climb the tower, and he would contact them later. Then he got in a car and left the first test. It classified the players' ranks by measuring their mana. Those who passed with enough points would have to take the second test. The content was very simple, just clear a dungeon in the Tower of Trials. Since the test had no difficulty limit, most players chose dungeons with goblins or orcs. However, the dungeon he intended to attack was the only ruin on the first floor. Even from when the Tower of Trials was first released 11 years ago until it appeared in the real world, that place remained an unconquered territory. It had been a long time since he had come to this fallen castle. Because he was only F-rank now, he couldn't enter the ruins alone. And even if he wasn't F-rank, the guild that managed the ruins wouldn't just sit by and let him attack it as he pleased, so he thought of a way: register as a porter and just walk in. A friendly person in the group asked him what brought him all the way here. Kang Jin-hyuk replied that to live, you need a lot of money. The other person smiled, his eyes crinkling. "That's right, isn't it? Everyone's like that. I came here to earn money to support my life with my beautiful wife and cute kids." Kang Jin-hyuk listened silently as he spoke. Characters like this in stories usually die first. After bragging, he switched to a lamenting tone. Those F-rankers. They always have to be extremely careful. Just one tiny mistake can cost them their lives, and medics can't even come to save them because machines don't work inside those ruins. After walking for a while, they finally reached the ruins. The Ruin Conquest mission began. Specifically, they had to defeat the boss and seize the throne in the deepest part of the ruins. The reward was the right to choose one holy relic while resting with the group. Kang Jin-hyuk received a notification, the reward for the first person to conquer the tower. It had arrived, the reward opened up, and inside was an increase of 10 luck stats, and the Heart of Ice adaptation was activated. This skill helps to stay calm in difficult situations. The exclusive passive skill was also activated. If you save up the rewards given to you, you can choose the best one among the options. If before being able to choose a decent item from thousands of rewards was considered great, now the thing called probability had become meaningless to him. A beam of magical light shone in the middle of the courtyard and 50 people appeared with the leader wearing armor. This was Weebahi's main force. Kang Jin-hyuk activated his Eye of Truth to see the captain's stats. His name was Song Jung, a level 14. His unique skill was item weight reduction. The copy condition was to gain his loyalty through this conquest. This condition is so damn annoying, however, he found it strange. The captain of the main force of a guild in the nation's top 10 was only at this level. It's a bit disappointing, but if they don't get in his way, it's fine. As they walked, arranging ranks and teams by level, their group followed behind, led by a guy with his hood pulled down low. It's going to be extremely dark from here on out. Everyone remember to stick very close behind me. If you get lost, I can't save you. After saying that, he activated Illuminate level 1. As soon as the light shone, they could see inside the ruins. The monsters that were dealt with by the high-level party ahead were lying scattered about. After walking a bit further, the Porter team also gathered with the high-level party. Kang Jin-hyuk took a quick look. It was strange, fighting that many monsters without a single casualty. With the combat power of Song Jung-ah that he had seen earlier, this was impossible, seeing him just standing there. Staring at the high-level party, a guy from his team came over and slapped his shoulder. "What the hell are you doing? Hurry up and bring the water and ice over here." "Over here. We'll take care of this. You go over there and take care of the foreigners." "Oh, right, I forgot he's just a porter. He's a foreigner after all." The person mentioned was referring to the people in yellow armor with a familiar symbol on their arms, which, upon closer inspection, resembled the emblem of the European upper class. There were also people with the Gizian symbol. Seeing a rather short guy over there, he immediately brought a glass of ice water over to try and befriend him. "You did well. Drink this glass of iced water." The other person politely replied, "Thank you." Kang Jin-hyuk also activated his communication skill, making the other person feel a slight sense of friendliness from him. The short person took off their helmet, unexpectedly revealing she was a girl. This person was the youngest daughter of the European noble family Laurentia. She was an all-around player who possessed holy power capable of both offense and defense and could use recovery skills to support her teammates. She had saved all of Amsterdam, which was nearly destroyed by a riot. This was one of the most famous players in Europe, the Saintess of Europe, Teresa zu Laurentia. Now he understood why there were no casualties. With her around, they could indeed defeat the undead most effectively. But isn't everyone aiming to climb the tower right now? Why would they suddenly choose to conquer these ruins? Instead of challenging the third-floor boss, the Eye of Truth activated, compensating for the level difference thanks to his luck and adaptation stats. The level of Teresa zu Laurentia had reached level 29. Her unique skill was Blessing of the Stars. She also had skills like Holy Power Reinforcement, Stealth Blessing, Hand of the 10 Prices, and Illusionary Shield. The condition for copying them was to save this girl. Escaping a dangerous situation with stats like these was truly impressive. No wonder so many people were crazy about her. However, her status window said she was currently on a class-specific quest. It seems this was the reason she gave up on the boss fight to come here. Teresa returned the glass to him, smiled, and said, "Thank you." Kang Jin-hyuk replied that he should be the one thanking her, as she had given him the opportunity to acquire the unique skill of a knight. It's rumored to be the most formidable one. The problem was how to create a situation that would put her in danger. Suddenly, the ruins began to shake. A person ran over shouting, "Jung-ah, over here, hurry!" By the time Song Jung-ah ran over, casualties had already occurred. Their party had touched a guardian crystal. The ruins' guardians had detected the intruders via the ruins' security system. The slumbering bomb awakens upon receiving external stimulation. When awakened, it will summon guardians to protect these ruins. Song Jung-ah clutched his head. If we had just left it alone, this wouldn't have happened. Which idiot touched that crystal? What's the use of complaining now it's already awakened? Now we only have 10 minutes left. Facing the guardians with our current combat strength is no different from suicide. At the very least, more than half of the people here will die if we evacuate. All those who can't fight within 10 minutes might be saved, but it took so much effort for him to become the team leader. How could he let it end here? After a moment's thought, he decisively gave the order. "We will continue to advance inside." The people beside him immediately protested, all saying he was crazy. "The reinforcements haven't arrived yet. When the time is up, the Guardians will swarm out from all directions." Song Jung-ah shouted, "Shut up and follow me. I will take responsibility." "There's no need to wait for reinforcements because we have the Saintess Teresa with us." The solo players following behind didn't see any problem. They felt there was nothing to worry about. There's no way a large guild like Bahi would act without a plan. They just needed to follow the team leader's orders. "Maybe the advanced raid team has already wiped out all the Guardians. They're just waiting for us to go in." And yet as time ticked by, ruined Guardians swarmed out from all directions. One of them lightly pinched and instantly killed a person with its 2 giant fingers. The advanced raid team was led by Song Jung-ah. As soon as the time was up, he anxiously announced, "The Guardians have appeared. Everyone prepare for battle." The formation was arranged with tankers in the front and porters in the back. Everyone moved quickly, getting ready. Buffs were cast to support the tankers and main damage dealers. All the main damage dealers' skills were activated one by one along with Song Jung-ah's Iron Shield and Formation Enhancement skills. Lee Chun-mi's Battle Song skill was activated. The newly appeared Guardians were numerous and had already surrounded the entire group at the same time. The solo players at the back couldn't hold on any longer. They shouted for help. Song Jung-ah turned his head away and continued to focus on the battle. He knew there would be casualties before this even started. There was nothing he could do. This was not the time to be paying attention to those guys. Compared to the guild members with their tight tactical thinking, these solo players lacking teamwork skills were not worth mentioning. The group of solo players at the back thought they had been abandoned. Then a pale yellow light rushed forward. Teresa activated 10 crosses and slashed through several Guardians. She scanned the area and noticed 2 Guardians had broken through the raid team's line. The non-combat members were in danger. She needed to get to the supply room quickly. Teresa's intuition was not wrong at all. At that moment, the supply room was in ruins. The man who had been talking to Kang Jin-hyuk earlier was injured, sitting against the ground. "Safety my ass, my life is over." A Guardian saw he wasn't resisting and raised its axe to strike, but Kang Jin-hyuk blocked it with his knife, slashing repeatedly at its body. He stood between the porter and the Guardian. "What are you talking about? Didn't I say we would survive and get out of here together?" The ruined Guardian saw him blocking the way and switched its target to him. Its hand reached out to grab him, but Kang Jin-hyuk dodged it. At the same time, he activated Fire Element and counterattacked, burning it to a crisp. Someone will probably come and deliver the finishing blow. As for him, he needed to get used to this Fire Element skill, so he couldn't kill it just yet. But it was unbelievable that the group ahead dared to awaken the Guardians in such a dangerous ruin. This brought no benefits at all, so who could have done it? When Teresa rushed over to help, the scene she saw was Kang Jin-hyuk holding a knife with a vile expression, while another porter had a look of terror. He was sitting slumped on the ground. With lightning speed, she lifted him up and shielded the porter. "I thought you were a good person, but I never expected you to be someone who uses a knife to threaten others. Threatening someone with no combat ability. So you're the one who awakened the Guardians. I'm taking you in." He had just done a good deed and not only got no reward, but was also falsely accused. Kang Jin-hyuk pointed to his own dumbfounded face and asked what Teresa didn't say much and directly attacked to capture him. "Don't resist. I don't want to hurt you. I'll listen to your explanation at the association." Kang Jin-hyuk continuously dodged her attacks, saying there was a misunderstanding, but Teresa didn't listen at all. This girl said she didn't want to hurt him, yet every one of her blows was thunderous. It seemed she was too worked up to listen to him anymore. "In that case, don't blame me for not going easy on a lady." When she raised her shield to attack again, he leaned over, swept her leg, and sent Teresa tumbling into a hole. Kang Jin-hyuk sat cross-legged to one side, holding the knife to her throat. Only in this position would she finally listen. "I'm not the one who awakened the Guardians. If I were, you'd already be dead right here." Everything happened so fast. The rescued man, startled, finally shouted, "Miss Teresa, Mr. Kang, why are you two fighting? Mr. Kang is the one who saved me." This time it was the Saintess's turn to be mortified as the rescued man spoke up. She hurriedly bowed 90 degrees, apologizing repeatedly. "I sincerely apologize. I'm truly sorry. I just did something completely unnecessary." Kang Jin-hyuk waved his hand dismissively, telling her not to worry about it. Anyone would have misunderstood in that situation. The two of them continued forward to rejoin the group. Teresa asked curiously, Your name is Jin Hyuk, right? Why are you hiding your identity? Kang Jin Hyuk replied that he was just like her. She joined the Zion Guild as a cover, but was actually doing her class quest to obtain the item Oath of St. Peter, and he was also secretly searching for his own item. Hearing him say that, Teresa wondered how he could possibly know these things. Kang Jin Hyuk continued. Furthermore, I'm also familiar with everything about this ruin. With my current skills, I believe I can rely on you. Also, the items we both want are in the same area. So what do you think? Can I go with you? When they regrouped with the party, Song Young-ah heard Teresa say she was going to go separately and disagreed. No way. Are you crazy? We need to concentrate our forces and move forward. What the hell do you mean you want to go off on your own? Teresa retorted that he already had the map guiding the way to the storage point. He also already knew the strategies. Whether she stayed or left wasn't that important. Besides, their agreement from the beginning was that they could move independently before the boss fight. Song Jung-ah didn't want to agree because the situation was different now, but since the deal was made, he had to accept it. He reminded her that she still had to regroup with them at the edge of the ruins. Teresa thanked him profusely and said she wanted to choose a porter to assist, but he was overwhelmed with problems and told her to do whatever she wanted. Just promise to come back. When Teresa went to the porters to choose someone, everyone thought she would rush into dangerous places, so they all looked away, afraid to make eye contact for fear of being chosen. Kang Jin Hyuk raised his hand and volunteered to go. Immediately, his colleagues beside him pushed him down and advised him that going would surely get him killed. Nothing is more precious than your life, and even if she's beautiful, you only get to be young once. Listen to us, young man, with this kind of atmosphere, how could he possibly go? Well, I guess I will just have to be reckless. Kang Jin Hyuk, amidst everyone's crazy looks, began to say some cheesy lines. Dear lady, do you not feel a burning desire when you look at a young man? As strong as me is for me this very moment. Is the time for me to burn with the love of my life, even if it costs me my life, I am willing. After he finished speaking, the people around were utterly speechless. With disgusted expressions, they watched him successfully pair up with Teresa. The two of them went to find the item they needed, and Teresa told him to look there, the Oath of St. Peter. It lay in the middle of a red coffin, surrounded by a horde of zombies on guard. To get it, they needed to remove the barrier on the coffin before the two could do anything. The system issued a red alert. Warning, the Lord of the Fallen Corridor is searching for you. There was no doubt this was a warning from the boss, who surely had no interest in other players. But now it was paying attention to him. Teresa asked if this meant it was paying attention to the two of them. He confidently replied, No, that boss is paying attention to me. This guy was indeed overconfident, but she still wondered if he really knew everything about this place. Then what did she need to do next? Following his instructions, Teresa jumped from above into the middle of the zombie horde and activated the level 5 Warsong skill. All stats would be increased by 3 for 10 minutes. What she needed to do was quite simple. Just attract the attention of the zombies was enough. If she used her holy power, the zombies would be terrified of her. Teresa's holy power was enhanced to level 5. A stream of light like a mini sun radiated out, making the zombies constantly retreat in avoidance. They were terrified, as if they were being burned. Whichever way she advanced, they would back away. This was the time to move forward. Kang Jin Hyuk also jumped down, stepping on the zombies' heads. Most of the zombies were drawn to Teresa by entrusting her like this. He would not level up unintentionally after that. A much stronger black and red death aura emanated. The Grim Reaper of the hidden ruins, the High Lich, had appeared. It was a monster with a black cloth draped over its dry skeleton. Along with a red and black scepter besides the High Lich, there was also a headless knight trying to punch him. Kang Jin Hyuk leaned back to dodge the blow, not expecting to encounter a headless knight here. It seemed things had changed when he brought Teresa here. The High Lich's dark beam could easily destroy the headless knight, and the zombies, whether they flew or fled, were likely to be hit by stray shots. Even a level 3 barrier would also be crushed by the dark beam, so he deliberately jumped back and forth near the coffin's barrier to take advantage of the High Lich's attack. As long as it did not hit him, hitting anything else was useful. After dodging a few times, the coffin's barrier was shattered by the dark beam, destroying the level 5 energy. Kang Jin Hyuk also dismembered the headless knight on Teresa's side. She had also quickly dealt with most of the enemy zombies. Only the moving skeleton remained. Without him having to lift a finger, a sword came down, splitting the skeleton in two. The newcomer stepped on the High Lich's head and walked towards him. Found you. There is only one person who can predict the monster's behavior, so I was pretty sure you would be here. Long time no see, you must remember me. Kang Jin Hyuk looked at him and thought, Who the hell are you? Then activated the Eye of Truth again and used his luck and adaptation stats to compensate for the level difference. The stats showed the newcomer's name was Chun Ju Sung, a level 29 swordsman whose unique skill was sword song. The copy condition was to defeat him in a duel. A sword to shatter Chunju Sung's belief that his swordsmanship was unparalleled in the world. The sharp sword engraved with the name Qianlong that this guy was holding was a holy relic. It had been taken from the National Museum of Korea before he got there. He recalled a time when the Tower of Trials was just a game. There was someone he had defeated who then continuously challenged him. No matter where he was or what he was doing, Kang Jin-hyuk asked him, "Are you that psychopathic stalker?" Chunju Sung was furious just thinking that he did not recognize him just because the Tower of Trials had become reality in his eyes. "Was that all you thought of me?" Kang Jin-hyuk covered his face and said, "I remember now." He just could not believe the guy could follow him from back when it was a game, until now Chunju Sung pointed his sword at his face, wanting to continue the challenge. This time it will be different. "We are both starting from zero now. I will not be left behind by you anymore." He would not stop him if he wanted to fight. He actually wanted to fight and defeat him to copy the skill, but this place was not good at all. His teammate would not just stand by if the two of them fought. Seeing his teammate Teresa was quite a nuisance. "But I will not let anyone interfere." Chunju Sung activated the level 5 battle zone, and immediately the two of them disappeared before Teresa's eyes just as he said goodbye to her. He raised his sword into a ready stance. "No one will disturb us now. Once again, I issue a challenge," he said, while activating the opposition skill. All his stats would increase by 10%. Kang Jin-hyuk's stats decreased by 10%. He was being affected by this guy's battle zone and opposition skills. They are gone. This situation has become disadvantageous coincidentally when in a disadvantageous situation a special condition of the fusion skill would activate when the situation becomes unfavorable for fulfilling the condition. The original copy condition will be modified activating skill copy without needing to meet the condition. Of course, he chose to copy the guy's unique skill. The sword song skill would raise the sword mastery stat by 200%. The body would automatically execute the most effective sword paths, and the senses would also be enhanced with Chunju Sung. The thing he hated most was being ignored, as if he were air. Seeing him just standing there, not paying attention, he rushed forward and slashed with his sword. Kang Jin-hyuk also used his knife to block the blow. "Clang, clang, you bastard! What do you think you are doing? What happened to your mid-range combat skill set? Are you fighting me with just that knife?" He leisurely blocked the attacks while smiling and replying, "This is more than enough. Swordsmanship is pretty fun, is not it?" If he did not open his mouth, it was fine, but when he did, it just pissed people off. Chunju Sung activated the soul-chasing spirit blade skill to trade a few blows with him. Neither of them were hurt yet, but the floor had already been slashed with 2 long gashes by him. Kang Jin-hyuk dodged and asked, "Are not you going a bit too far? Using spiritual power from your sword to fight a novice swordsman like me?" Chunju Sung roared as he slashed forward, raising his middle finger with his other hand. "Like hell you are a novice swordsman," although he was not a novice swordsman if he used his knife blade to block now. The spiritual power would break it in that case. He had to use the demon soul orb he had just looted from the High Lich, then fuse sword song and the demon soul orb to create Earth Demon Sword. Something capable of resisting the spiritual power from his sword. A blinding purple light erupted, and the system announced he had obtained Earth Demon Sword. This sword increases the sword mastery stat by 500%. This is the skill needed to obtain the Demon Sword title. He activated both Earth Demon Sword and Night Black Moon. However, this was not the full power of this skill. His magical power was not enough to use it as he wished. Therefore, the knife in his hand was like a living thing controlling his hand. The insane power from the knife made Chunju Sung break out in a sweat. He was in the most ideal place using 2 mid-range skills. He should have been able to outclass this brat. Inside that game, he had repeatedly received death notifications, and now that they were out, he had also tried everything to defeat him just once, but still could not. Realizing this made it even more unacceptable for Chunju Sung. He moved forward, slashing relentlessly. Kang Jin-hyuk, also due to the knife's control, executed a few sword strikes that blew away his spiritual power. "You just blew away my spiritual power." He replied, "I have fought people much faster than you. They even use things stronger than your sword, so you are nothing special." Another exchange of blows, but this time he was the one attacking. While he struggled to defend for a few seconds, his sword was sent flying and stuck into the ground. "Looks like I win." Although I do not remember how many times this is, he did not remember, but the other guy remembered it all clearly. It was 138 times a disappointed Chunju Sung sat on the ground and told him to just kill him. Kang Jin-hyuk dusted off his shoulder. "It looks like it'll reach number 139 next time." You have to understand that the tower is no place to joke around. This is a place where even high rankers can die if they let their guard down, so we need as many players as possible. The more the better, especially when they're as strong as you. Actually, it takes a full 60 days to copy the same person's skill, so I can't kill him yet. Besides, he doesn't even need to go looking for this guy to copy his skills since he'll come looking for a fight anyway. Just offering up his skills on a silver platter. He shook Chun Yu-sung's hand, activating his communication skill to build goodwill. The guy turned to leave, declaring, "I lose this time, but remember the outcome won't be the same next time." Then, deactivating his battle zone, Chun Yu-sung turned and asked him, "Hey, by the way, I still don't know your real name." Kang Jin-hyuk didn't answer and asked a question back. "Our relationship isn't at that level, is it?" "What the hell are you asking for?" He wasn't too persistent if he didn't know the name. He would just use the in-game nickname. His nickname... He thought of that nickname that was so embarrassing people couldn't look you in the eye. He immediately yelled, "Wait," but it was too late. Chun Yu-sung opened his mouth and called out shitfart Teresa, who was nearby, also froze and repeated shitfart at the same time on the outside. Song Jung-ah and his comrades were still struggling to handle the tough monsters, thinking they had cleared some, but no. Suddenly, a group of iron guards burst out from nowhere, and there was someone right on top of them. It was a high-ranking vampire. He bowed politely and introduced himself as Velos, a loyal servant who serves Jinzo, the master of these ruins. One minute he was polite, the next he bared his sharp fangs in a sinister grin. Song Jung-ah broke into a cold sweat and uncomfortably asked his purpose. "You must have a reason for showing up here." Velos acted superior, showing no fear even with a sword at his throat, and made an offer. He gave Song Jung-ah two choices, though it seemed more like a mandatory command. 1, follow him quietly. 2, become his puppet and his lunch. As he spoke, Velos unleashed blood frenzy, controlling everyone present. Then he brought them back to his territory. Meanwhile, Teresa and Kang Jin-hyuk had obtained the Ice Tear and the Demon Soul Stone. Kang Jin-hyuk couldn't stop caressing the Ice Tear in his hand. He thought to himself, "I can't freaking believe I got this thing when it's so hard to find. It's better to be lucky than good." Along with Teresa's holy power, his stats had also piggybacked an increase of 12. Just then, the Holy Knight suddenly received a message that made her extremely alarmed. It said that the master of the fallen monastery had sent an invitation. Specifically, if you want to rescue the raid party, come to the deepest room in the ruins. If you accept the quest, the monsters and traps leading to the room will be disabled. As soon as she read the part about the raid party being captured, Teresa's expression changed. She said sorrowfully that she had to go. Even if she could only save a single person, she wouldn't hesitate. She said she wouldn't hesitate, but immediately after she felt something was wrong. She asked herself if she could really defeat Jinzo. What would happen if she became that woman's plaything just as she wanted? Teresa sighed with regret, thinking that if she had gone with them, then this might not have happened. The pretty girl's laments reached Chun Yu-sung's ears, but he didn't like to meddle in other people's business, so he just ignored it and said his goodbyes. Before leaving, he couldn't help but run his mouth, so he had to give some pointers. Chun Yu-sung glanced towards Kang Jin-hyuk with annoyance and anger, then said, "If you ever find it difficult to make a decision, then take my advice. That guy over there has no shame and is selfish as hell. That's one of the many reasons I constantly challenge him." "Damn, this guy gives advice while also bad-mouthing the hell out of him." Chun Yu-sung was visibly angry but continued, "But I'm pretty sure of one thing. The only person in this world who can defeat Jinzo right now is that bastard." After hearing this, Teresa gave a small smile. Without any doubt, she immediately went over, took Kang Jin-hyuk's hand, and proposed they form a party. Kang Jin-hyuk waved his hand dismissively, but still acted all high and mighty. "My fee isn't cheap. Are you still sure? As for money, Teresa had plenty," she replied in a heartbeat, promising to give him as many coins as possible as long as he helped her defeat Jinzo. What could be better than that? Of course, he agreed immediately, and so right after that, the two of them went to the deepest room in the monastery. They were only standing in front of the door. The amount of spiritual power radiating from within was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Kang Jin-hyuk reassured Teresa, "Don't be afraid. In a fight, the stronger one doesn't always win." As the door opened, he reminded her that no matter what happened inside, she just needed to place her absolute trust in him. Such deadly sweet talk. A pickup line so smooth it could make anyone swoon. When the gate opened, the boss greeted them with a tired look. "You're finally here. I've grown tired of waiting." Kang Jin-hyuk didn't bother to reply. He was only focused on whether his people were still safe. Then he used his owl's eye to check which damn bastard had awakened those guards. Ah, there are the shoes. So it was that bastard Park Ha-jin. Once I get out of here, I'll deal with you later. Before they could even ask, Jinzo eagerly explained why she had invited them. It was because of the scent emanating from Kang Jin-hyuk. I thought it was body odor, but no. She could sense the sweetest aroma she had ever smelled, a scent completely different from the others. As Jinzo spoke, she showed an uncontrollable excitement in her body, just like some kind of pervert. Kang Jin-hyuk freaked out after hearing that. Why the hell is this bitch suddenly talking about the smell of my blood? She never said that before. Seeing that her target looked uncomfortable, Jinzo took the trouble to explain that she was the type to savor her meals so he could live for at least 65 years and didn't need to be afraid. 65 years. Just thinking about it was sickening. What's the difference from being stuck with this hag for a lifetime with a straw stuck straight in my neck? Kang Jin-hyuk refused flat out, but before he could finish his sentence, a laser beam grazed him. Across the cheek. I didn't ask for your opinion. You have no right to speak here. Jinzo angrily shot up. Seeing her ally almost get killed, Teresa called out in concern. Kang Jin-hyuk replied with a dark expression that he was fine, then turned to fiercely reproach Jinzo. He then offered her something even sweeter than his blood. Hearing about something better than her meal, she grew curious and asked, but was still half doubting. No matter what you offer me, I will not change my mind. Ignoring the refusal, Kang Jin-hyuk pressed on. Are you really sure about that? Even if I offered to give you freedom. 1 second, she was adamant about not changing her mind. The next, she flipped faster than a pancake, asking in bewilderment, freedom. The vampires beside her, hearing the word freedom, became agitated and got ready to eat the prey alive, snarling, how dare you say such a thing here? Insolent human, I'll tear you to pieces! The master hadn't spoken, but the servants were already running their mouths. Jinzo signaled for them to be quiet and then questioned Kang Jin-hyuk. Right on cue. He immediately executed his plan, taking out a mask and putting it on, then started muttering, My name is Kang Jin-hyuk as the incarnation of the demonkin in the tower. I will free you from this place. That sounds plausible enough? Demonkin. They are those who have abandoned their humanity for money, hatred, or even their own beliefs. The demonkin do their utmost to prevent other players from climbing the tower. Sometimes they even side with the monsters of labyrinths or ruins, Kang Jin-hyuk continued. I have contacted the temple on the 27th floor about your presence and how to bypass the barrier's protection. That is what they told me about the ruins barrier. Behind him, Teresa wondered in confusion what the hell is going on. Why is he suddenly pretending to be a demonkin? What is this temple that has them trembling so much over here? Even though Kang Jin-hyuk knew about the temple, Jinzo still didn't believe him because anyone could claim they could solve a problem that no one else could. Besides, you seem to be going too far for someone who's just a smooth talker. I don't believe you. You have such sweet blood, what a shame. Die. After listening to Kang Jin-hyuk's nonsense, Jinzo sneered. She stood up, activated her blood spear, and attacked her prey. Kang Jin-hyuk stood perfectly still, not moving an inch. Teresa from behind immediately rushed forward to block with all her might. Kang Jin-hyuk, hide behind me. I'll use my holy power to stop them. She dodged the attacks while protecting her ally. Jinzo couldn't help but laugh out loud at this scene, but then she showed a scornful expression. Ha ha ha, look at you using all your strength just to block these few attacks. It's hilarious, but I hate holy power. It looks indescribably nauseating. I'll blow you all away. Despite the threat and the accompanying action in front of her, Teresa remained overly confident, placing her absolute trust in Kang Jin-hyuk behind her. However, what a surprise. Trust your friend with all your heart and your friend will shock you to your core. What a surprise. A dagger from behind pierced through Teresa, and its owner was none other than Kang Jin-hyuk. The girl was so shocked she was speechless, but she still tried to grab her ally to question him. On the verge of tears, she used her remaining strength to whisper, You said you had a plan. Is this your plan? What damn plan are you talking about now? Kang Jin-hyuk replied by directly striking a few more times, which made Alice very pleased, laughing out loud in amusement. Kang Jin-hyuk knew his chance had come. He took Abraham's ring from his pocket and said, To deceive the barrier imprisoning you, Alice, I have prepared a 7-star magic spell. If I seal your soul into this ring, the barrier will be temporarily deceived. The magic circle will disappear permanently after 1 minute, and the magic will activate when you agree. The decision is yours. What will you do now? Alice seemed to be swayed, but to be safe before stepping into the magic circle, she didn't forget to remind her confidant Bellos if he acts suspiciously. Eliminate him and destroy the magic circle immediately. Although she was on guard, she was wary of agreeing to a spell she had never seen before, but she had been imprisoned here for too long, so she decided to go all in this time. Jinzo then slowly stepped into the magic circle that Kang Jin-hyuk had set up. She asked him one last time if she could trust him. Kang Jin-hyuk calmly knelt and replied by gently lifting her finger, simultaneously activating his level 1 communication skill to increase her favorability. It seemed Alice had opened her heart. "I, Alice von Ataraxia, accept the sealing of my soul," she said, and so it was. The ring immediately fulfilled its mission, absorbing Alice's soul inside. Once completely absorbed, Alice felt it wasn't so bad, thinking it would be suffocating. But it turned out to be unexpectedly comfortable. When everything was done, Kang Jin-hyuk finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. At that moment, the blessing of the stars skill activated. From the ground, Teresa suddenly sat up. Kang Jin-hyuk turned to her with an affectionate smile. "Welcome back," he said. It turned out Teresa could resurrect once. As long as the death is not instantaneous and it takes 240 hours to reset the skill. No wonder he acted so decisively back then. It turns out it was all calculated beforehand. He just didn't tell the person in question, that's all. Alice inside the ring now realized she was the one who'd been tricked into the trap, furiously ordering Bellows to skewer this lying bastard immediately. Her subordinate on the side gritted his teeth as if he didn't have enough to deal with. He had to handle everything. He'd told her not to trust him from the start, but she didn't listen, and now she's crying for help. This old hag is so freaking tiring. Bellows immediately activated his bloodburst skill to attack, unleashing crimson gales like a storm. Kang Jin-hyuk was no slouch either, immediately using his fire element to counterattack. The two sides were evenly matched, neither willing to yield to the other. While the titans clashed, Teresa quickly rescued the hostages. The two fought for a while without a clear winner. Bellows couldn't believe a human could withstand his magic. He had to pause for a few seconds to regain his composure, seeing this Kang Jin-hyuk kindly explained to him that their magic and fire were complete opposites, and besides, he had a slight misunderstanding, because the very moment his master was sealed into the ring, he had already lost. And indeed, everything was exactly as he had said. Kang Jin-hyuk then activated the unique skill from the Earth Sword, completely defeating Bellows' Dark Sword Soul, along with the minions trailing beside him witnessing this scene. Song Jung-ah's jaw dropped in astonishment, so much so that he had to exclaim, "Miss Teresa, what kind of monster is that guy?" She froze for a moment, thinking that if the other person was wearing a mask, he probably didn't want to reveal his identity, so she replied to Song Jung-ah that she didn't know she had just met him on the way here. After everything was settled, she turned towards the approaching Kang Jin-hyuk, suddenly bursting into tears and thanking him for helping her and saving everyone. Kang Jin-hyuk was stunned for a few seconds, but he immediately returned to normal because that very thank you had fulfilled the condition. He had saved Teresa's life and successfully copied the Blessing of the Stars skill, having gotten what he wanted. Kang Jin-hyuk quickly urged the girl who was still busy crying over there. "Let's grab the holy relics and get out of here quickly." But before they could even get a good look at how many items there were, Song Jung-ah popped out of nowhere and unexpectedly cut in. "Wait, I am the captain of the raid team. All items from this conquest belong to Wibena." Not letting this guy say much more, Kang Jin-hyuk, emanating a murderous aura, asked back in a disdainful tone, "I saved your life, and now you're demanding the rewards from the relic." Song Jung-ah tried to explain that they would give him a different reward money or countless coins that could satisfy him. Oh, so Song Jung-ah wanted to regain some honor for the raid team. Even though they were taken hostage, if they could still retrieve the holy relics, they could restore some of their reputation. Seeing that he seemed sincere, Kang Jin-hyuk agreed to the exchange. But he didn't forget to remind him, "If anything happens, don't you regret it." Song Jung-ah didn't have much time to think about the consequences. He hastily grabbed the holy relic before him with a smug look, but instant karma struck immediately. A spark of electricity shot through his body, causing him to stumble backward. It was a curse hidden within Merlin's staff, a holy relic that could only be safely claimed when Alice is slain. However, she was now stuck in the ring so touching it would naturally lead to unpredictable consequences. Song Jung-ah didn't understand what the hell was happening. He kept shouting, "What the hell is this?" Teresa, dumbfounded, covered her mouth and stood frozen in place. Kang Jin-hyuk had to walk over and nudge her to get going. "Don't look at this stuff anymore. Just leave him be." A few hours later, at the entrance of the trial tower, countless journalists and reporters were flocking outside, waiting for the people who cleared the tower to come out. They were quite skeptical, because experts said it would take at least 3 weeks for the conquest to end. but they still tried to wait, clinging to this small piece of information. But as they say, waiting is always a form of happiness, whether it comes sooner or later. And at that very moment, the announcement that the Fallen Corridor relic has been conquered was quickly broadcast. Department head Kim Tae-chun of the Awakened Association was so startled he dropped the cigarette he had just lit. The survivors of the conquest stepped out one by one. Countless flashing lights and the clicking of cameras shone on them as people continuously cheered Wibana's name, congratulating them on their achievement. But the surprise was always at the end. What stunned them was Song Jung-ah's completely bald head, and even his eyebrows were gone. Everyone assumed he had fought so hard that all his hair fell out. Someone even shed tears, exclaiming, "What in the world happened in there?" However, not letting them speculate for long, Teresa suddenly stepped forward with a radiant smile, joyfully announcing that Song Jung-ah was not the conqueror of this relic. Next, she pointed towards Kang Jin-hyuk, introducing him as the one who did it, and they were just spectators watching his performance. The crowd immediately erupted upon hearing the news, and the very next day a series of news articles about the masked man gradually appeared in the newspapers, all filled with flowery words. Although he knew this would cause a sensation, this level of reaction was beyond Kang Jin-hyuk's expectations. As he chewed on his hot instant noodles, he silently flexed about how smart he was to have worn a mask. Otherwise, this little corner of his would have been packed with people long ago. After finishing his noodles, Kang Jin-hyuk suddenly remembered Alice in the ring, so he took her out to mess with her. Alice still thought she was the queen of that sanctuary, so she was still very loud and bossy, yelling, "How dare you stuff me in a dark and smelly pocket all day long? You there, do you know who I am?" After hearing this hag's threat, Kang Jin-hyuk's expression suddenly changed, becoming extremely sinister, and then he continuously used all his might to violently shake the necklace. Alice was still not subdued. She mentioned her grudge and even ordered him to stop. In this situation, it was clear who had the upper hand. Kang Jin-hyuk, of course, would see it through to the end. He couldn't let this matter just fade away. He took great pleasure in becoming someone who played with the vampire's pain. Despite Alice's desperate screams for help or pleas for mercy, this bastard continued to shake her for a full 3 hours. When he had exercised to his heart's content, Kang Jin-hyuk, in a condescending tone, ordered, "Stop crying and come out now." Alice, after so many days of being stuffed in a pocket, was finally let out. The first words she uttered were to wash away this humiliation. "I will make you taste 1,000 times the humiliation I—" But wait. Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly realized something was wrong. Instinctively pointing at herself and screaming, "What the heck is this?" Kang Jin-hyuk put on an innocent-as-can-be expression, saying that he had transformed a part of her during the sealing process so she could be called a miniature version of Alice. And she wouldn't be able to use even 1% of her true power. Yeah, 1% that turned her into this. It was truly unspeakably cruel, but even with 1% of her power, she was still much stronger than ordinary vampires. Alice's heart ached, as if cut. Her face streamed with tears as she clutched it and cried, sob, unable to accept this reality. The freedom she wanted was not this kind of freedom at all. To make her stop crying, Kang Jin-hyuk bluntly promised to help her get the freedom she wanted. "Alice von Ataraxia, if you help me, I will destroy those who betrayed you, and help her reclaim her lost position as the head of the Ataraxia family." A few hours after Kang Jin-hyuk's boss kill video was uploaded to the Hall of Fame, public opinion exploded once again. The conquest that everyone thought would fail. However, the tables turned with the appearance of the masked man who brought a breath of fresh air, and thankfully it was not the scorching kind, followed by countless praising comments. Even Professor Park had to like and subscribe, which was enough to show just how popular it was. Right at this moment, Kang Jin-hyuk was standing right in front of a notorious guild. The monopolies and corruption of the big guilds were not his problem, but whether they would dare to eliminate him was the real question. Of course, Kang Jin-hyuk would not let that happen, and he would annihilate anyone like them. Putting on his mask, Kang Jin-hyuk stormed the top floor of the guild building alone. Raven, where its chairman Shin Jan-soo was acting all high and mighty. He was punishing Park Ha-jin for failing to eliminate his rival in the ancient ruins, shouting loudly as he kicked the bastard in the stomach. "Our guild's reputation is being dragged through the mud and is practically gone, all because you couldn't teach that little punk who dared to humiliate us a lesson. Useless bastard." But it was tough luck for the old man. Right after tormenting his subordinate, he got a taste of his own medicine from Kang Jin-hyuk. Seeing his rival arrive, Park Ha-jin quickly seized the opportunity, thinking it was a good chance to restore his honor. His own honor in front of the chairman, but how heartbreaking it turned out to be. Park Ha-jin was nothing but a fly sent flying out of the room with a single blow from Kang Jin-hyuk. Kang Jin-hyuk then sat majestically on the chair, completely relaxed, paying no mind to the chairman going ballistic. Ready to skewer him, the enraged Shin Jian-soo activated Swift Sword and charged straight at him to stab him, but Kang Jin-hyuk remained perfectly still in his seat. But with just a single go stone, he caused his opponent's sword to break in two. Shin Jian-soo, with a dumbfounded expression, wondered to himself, a go stone. Then he spoke up and questioned him. Did you come here for revenge? Just because I tried to kill you? For just that, you destroyed this entire place. For crying out loud, old man. You try to kill someone and then you ask a question like that. He really deserved a beating. Even as the chairman Shin Jian-soo was getting thrashed repeatedly, when force failed, he resorted to threats saying they had 50 rankers who were currently away climbing the tower. If he dared to finish him off, they would hunt him to the ends of the earth. Blood would flow endlessly and hatred would breed more hatred as long as one side refused to forgive. The cycle will continue forever. Hearing his reasoning, Kang Jin-hyuk felt embarrassed for him. Well then, let's just end this. I will be the avenger, and you will be the one to forgive me, he said, then swiftly sent the man to meet his ancestors in the blink of an eye. Park Ha-jin, who had been knocked several meters away, was still lying there like a statue on the verge of passing out, not daring to utter a single word. Kang Jin-hyuk temporarily spared him because his younger sister, the intern Park Hana, had helped him out quite a bit before leaving. Kang Jin-hyuk suddenly noticed the gatekeeper playing dead and told him to get up and present his profile immediately. The guy heard this and hurriedly stood at attention with a serious expression. My name is Kim Hyo-won, 26 years old. I am responsible for the general management of the Raven Guild. My major at university. At Stanford was computer science and accounting. You can entrust everything to me. This seemed rather impressive, especially compared to someone who had only grinded games for 11 years like himself, and the guy was also quite handsome. To not let a rising guild go to waste, Kang Jin-hyuk decided to make this man the guild leader. Kim Hyo-won was so shocked he nearly fell over backwards. He was the leader in name, but in reality he was only tasked with maintaining the guild's public image. Kim Hyo-won still could not quite accept this. But if I become the leader, no one will follow me, he yelled, pointing to his own goofy face. However, Kang Jin-hyuk had already thought of this. Who would agree to a secretary who cannot even fight suddenly taking the top spot? He told him not to worry, as someone else would handle anyone who objected. And immediately all guild members, no matter what they were doing, be it eating, sleeping, or monster hunting, received a summons to the top floor of the headquarters. Damn it, why an emergency meeting when we are this freaking busy? A guy busy farming monsters cursed after reading the message, but a few hours later they all had to scramble to gather. As soon as they arrived at the foot of the building, the first thing that hit them was the sight of the chairman's lifeless body and the desolate ruins of their headquarters. To top it all off, the one sitting in the chairman's seat was Kim Hyo-won. This shocked everyone to the core. Seeing the situation, the guild's A-rank players immediately moved to make him explain exactly what had happened. Kim Hyo-won could only mumble meekly that a new person had been appointed as leader. But the ranker remained clueless, especially after seeing the small figure of Alice beside him. He then blurted out, "This little brat." Alice immediately flew into a rage. "Who did you just call a little kid, huh?" After saying that, she proceeded to teach the guy a lesson in manners. Watching from below, Kang Jin-hyuk felt a massive headache coming on. I told her to manage the guild, what the hell is she doing? Just then, he received a message from the Awakened Association announcing that his test results were ready. Kang Jin-hyuk quickly rushed over to get his license. It had been about 2 months since the tower appeared. The world order had changed and people were slowly adapting. Meanwhile, the news was running special reports about the masked man. He attracted massive attention because a ruin that a major guild had failed to clear was conquered by a single person. At that time, only 2 people knew the masked man's true identity. One was Uncle Kim, the leader of the Porter team, who had cheerfully agreed to keep it a secret. The other was Teresa, who promised to take it to her grave. This allowed Kang Jin-hyuk to act with more peace of mind. All the conditions were met and nothing could hold him back anymore. It was finally time for him to seize everything. At the Awakened Association, Kang Jin-hyuk received his certificate. An awakened free to enter and farm monsters. He was just trying to hide his true abilities, so he was only ranked F class. There, he also ran into his two old friends. They were overjoyed when they found out he was the leader of Raven. After they exchanged greetings, Kang Jin-hyuk angrily began to speak. He turned to scold Alice for blowing up the building just because someone called her a little kid. She has lived for nearly 1,000 years, and you cannot even handle a little provocation like that. She was not one to back down, baring her two fangs and retorting sulkily, "Well, no one has ever provoked me like that before." Kang Jin-hyuk was utterly helpless. He had no idea what kind of creature she was. Feeling helpless, he stopped arguing and asked her to go hunting with him. After being told off, she was now being asked to hunt. Alice furiously told him to go alone. "Don't you have legs?" Kang Jin-hyuk simply dragged her along without another word. He needed support since he was about to hunt a large group of monsters. Oh, there are still hunting grounds available. This got Alice quite excited, because the other guilds are all competing to control the lucrative parts of the dungeons. There are not any hunting grounds left. Wait, that is what other people think. It is certainly not what Kang Jin-hyuk thinks. He knew very well about a place on the first floor of the Tower of Trials. Moon Lake, famous for being the most scenic spot in the tower. Ironically, no one came to visit it anymore. There are 12 statues here, and among them is a special one. It not only adds to the solemnity of the lake, but is also the key to a dungeon. Countless people had noticed the empty slot on the statue. Some thought it was for inserting a coin, while others said it was for a key, but no one had yet figured out how to open it. Because the key to this mechanism was not a normal key, but moonlight. Kang Jin-hyuk skillfully used his hand to adjust the amount and angle of the moonlight entering the slot, to match a sequence carved into the statue. Finally, after a few tries, the door leading underground opened, following Kang Jin-hyuk. Alice could not help but exclaim in surprise, "I never knew a place like this existed in the tower." It has been a long time. She could feel that sense of freedom she had long forgotten once more. Alice reached out to feel the swift current, feeling strangely at peace. Standing behind her with a sly look, Kang Jin-hyuk could not help but tease. "Aren't you glad you accepted my contract now?" She suddenly grew shy and bashfully admitted, "Well, I guess the boss is trustworthy." Kang Jin-hyuk then activated his Blessing of the Stars skill to use holy power as he descended into the dungeon. Thawing with tears increased his magic power by 18, and his ability to restrain Alice became easier. Looking at the dazed girl next to him, he suddenly had a bold idea. He wondered what the beings inside the tower thought about the players and if Alice was aware. Was she just a piece of data in the game? Thinking it was nosy, Kang Jin-hyuk went ahead and asked Alice what was on his mind, but what the hell. What he said was like a scratched film that scared her half to death, but it turned out all information related to the tower was blocked and couldn't be revealed, so that the species born inside the tower wouldn't find out. The deeper they went, the further they advanced, and at that moment Alice suddenly sensed something appearing. Enormous giant beetles then began crawling out awkwardly from the side. That's also why people call this place a monster spawning point, seeing these disgusting creatures. Alice trembled with so much fear that she forgot she was a vampire. Kang Jin-hyuk shouted for her to back away while he immediately attacked with his fire fist and the Blessing of the Stars. Why did I think this would be a piece of cake? But it wasn't. The monster's physical resistance suddenly increased by 30%. And although Alice was scared out of her wits because she had been coerced, she had to volunteer to exterminate these bugs. Alone with her blood seal, she turned the entire area into a sea of blood. Kang Jin-hyuk took the opportunity to close the distance and unleash himself from his previous restraints. Now he officially joined the fray, activating his purple poison sword to show them what a real party was. "All of you come at me." Kang Jin-hyuk shouted with a roguish look on his face. Meanwhile, in the conference room of the Olympus Guild, representatives of all the influential guilds were gathered to discuss strategy. The representative of the Titan Guild, Patrick, was the first to speak, as you all already know. The 8th raid to advance to the 4th floor has failed. Out of 19 raid teams with a total of 100 people, only 9 returned. The boss on the 3rd floor wasn't particularly strong. However, we have to find a way to destroy the 100,000 statues. That it commands, damn it all. It sounds just like the Terracotta Army, doesn't it? The representative of the Young-Ho Tenwei Guild also chimed in, even though they had a holy relic with a repulsion skill in hand. But they still failed. They couldn't break through their massive defenses. Then, one by one, the representatives of the other guilds also began to join the discussion alongside the Olympus Guild's representative. Maria was Teresa. These people argued for a while, blaming each other, and a conflict almost broke out. Ben was about to step in to stop this chaotic situation. The Titan Guild representative Patrick cut through the noise yesterday. We received an offer from the demon people. They said they would assist us. If we agree to their conditions, hearing about the demon people, everyone's hatred boiled over. No one agreed to fight alongside that bunch of wanted criminals. While they were arguing heatedly, a voice suddenly echoed from afar as if from the underworld. What do you mean by calling us trash? You're hurting our feelings, you know. It turned out to be a demon person who had somehow teleported here. As soon as he saw him, Baek Jin-ho flipped the table in a rage, intending to send him to meet his maker. Teng Hui also joined in raising his sword and pointing it forward, ready to act. You took the words right out of my mouth. Baek Jin-ho, the two who were just arguing loudly, are now on the same side, preparing to send this demon person back to his ancestors. Facing death, the demon person showed no fear. He calmly used the fact that he could destroy the third-floor boss as a pretext to lure them into joining him. At first, everyone was still talking tough, but after seeing his unique skill, Black Moon Gravekeeper, being activated, they changed their minds faster than flipping a pancake. Tens of thousands of moving skeletons were summoned, capable of becoming a powerful army when they realized he was a necromancer with the special staff of greed. Crafted from 99 different materials, they adopted a completely different attitude on the condition that this matter would not be made public. The representatives felt it was worth the gamble. Maria still disagreed. She continuously voiced her opposition. Teresa, standing to one side, thought they had truly lost their minds. She suddenly thought that if Jin Hyuk were here, they wouldn't be in this situation. While wondering what to do, Teresa suddenly received a video call request from outside, and it was none other than Kang Jin Hyuk. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Teresa, like a drowning person grabbing a lifebuoy, immediately answered the call. What the hell is going on? Kang Jin Hyuk exclaimed in surprise at the chaotic scene before him. The demon person didn't take it lightly, cursing, "Who is this damn bastard? Why don't you show yourself instead of hiding behind that boring screen?" Fine, I'll show myself. Kang Jin Hyuk wasn't afraid of anyone. Upon seeing the person before them, the representatives were all so surprised they stopped everything. The nameless one who single-handedly cleared the first-floor ruins, they looked at each other and said, "That's the super rookie that all the guilds in the world want to recruit, the person they went to great lengths to find." And yet here he was, standing right in front of them. They could barely contain their joy at his sudden appearance. The demon person broke the tense atmosphere with a snide question. "Do you even know that this boss hunt is completely different from the last one? This guy is even bragging. Is there anything I can't do with this many soldiers? Even the people here have to admit it." Kang Jin Hyuk feigned surprise. "Oh, is that so?" Then he delivered a line that made the guy want to find a hole to crawl into. "There's no way you can do it with just that fake staff." Having been hit where it hurts, the guy jumped up agitatedly. Kang Jin Hyuk then let the group of representatives see the true deceitful face of that bastard. He said, "Heart of the Holy Lance and Sacred Anointing Oil, you clearly used these two items to create it." As Kang Jin Hyuk explained, he pointed to the evidence on the Staff of Greed. "There's a ruby attached under the skull, and there's no way you could have created the real staff after only 3 floors. Moreover, that rabble outside wouldn't even last half a day on a hunt, let alone actually fight." He stated firmly that the bastard intended to abandon them after getting his hands on some coins or items while they were left confused and clueless. His plan ruined. The demon person immediately showed his true colors, calling him arrogant. He said he would regret not accepting the offer, and that next time he would definitely teach him a lesson. He also didn't forget to act menacing by saying bye-bye with a 360-degree flip. "I'll be watching you," as the bastard and his army of skeletons disappeared. Everyone looked at each other, bewildered, asking what to do. Now Kang Jin Hyuk didn't waste the opportunity and chimed in, telling them to leave it to him. There was no need to ally with the demon people. He would handle it all alone. Oh, this one statement immediately stunned all the big shots. After all, they were opportunists. It didn't matter to them whether he succeeded or not. The first thing they did was open their mouths to recruit the person that every guild wanted to have. But Kang Jin Hyuk's answer was a firm no. "You don't need to pay me anything, just block off the boss hunting area so no one can get in." I alone am enough. Hearing this utter nonsense, they couldn't help but ask for the reason. The more he spoke, the more suspicious they became. Kang Jin Hyuk then scratched his head shyly. He uttered some incredibly cringy words. "I'm just doing what needs to be done, all for the person I consider my most precious comrade." He tried to hold back from laughing his head off. Teresa was extremely shy, while Baek Jin-ho, as if a nerve had been struck, immediately burst out laughing. "Absolutely wonderful. This is true camaraderie, young man, in the name of the Titan Guild's representative. I can't say anything more. You make me see myself in you. How incredibly cheesy." Fortunately, the atmosphere seemed to have stabilized. Kang Jin-hyuk said his goodbyes preparing for his one-of-a-kind hunt, but little did anyone know that behind the masked super rookie was a girl being exploited like a slave, handling the horde of monsters in the distance all by herself, just as expected. Alice couldn't help but scream for justice because he dared to make her do all the work like a housemaid. Luckily, Kang Jin-hyuk still had a shred of humanity and planned to buy her some mana supplements to recover. He just didn't expect that his own blood was the best source of mana. After drinking her fill, Alice stopped complaining. She obediently jumped down into the bottomless abyss right in front of them with Kang Jin-hyuk, even though she tried to stop him, not knowing its depth. But Kang Jin-hyuk was extremely confident because he had been here 100 times before. He knew exactly how deep it was. He landed safely below and used fire magic to light up the area. Alice looked at the surrounding swarm of monsters and asked quietly if they were in the wrong place. Wrong place? How could it be the wrong place? Kang Jin-hyuk replied nonchalantly, "This is the right place." With that, he looked forward, facing the giant thing sitting imposingly before them. "Insects of this size aren't enough to kill me. Why don't you show yourself? You stray dog wandering the desert, Anubis." The giant statue that had been minding its own business was insulted and immediately retorted, but Kang Jin-hyuk was already prepared. He continuously taunted it to make it charge. Seeing the dog go berserk, Alice stood in front to block it. "This one is formidable. I'll hold him off. You get out of here quickly." He couldn't believe she was worried about him. Kang Jin-hyuk suddenly smirked and pushed her back. Alice advised him to stop showing off or he'd die young. Kang Jin-hyuk paid it no mind and continued to ramble on, preparing to put on a masterclass performance to show the lady who he truly was. Anubis, who was watching this scene, went directly into a rage. He immediately activated the skill Anubis' judgment and demanded, "Answer me quickly. Did that vampire wench tell you about me?" The first question appeared. Kang Jin-hyuk looked at that bastard with a dumbfounded expression. He knew full well that this skill would be activated whenever he faced Anubis. The ultimate judgment skill would activate once 3 questions were answered and the copy condition was met. It was to make this mutt lose its patience and destroy the vessel containing its consciousness. Kang Jin-hyuk thought that if he successfully provoked him, he would obtain that power. The power to answer the most powerful question in the world, so he just answered freely. Whether the answers were right or wrong didn't matter. Kang Jin-hyuk was very cooperative. He continuously answered all 3 questions until the conditions to activate the ultimate skill were met. He was immediately restrained for 1 minute, and all his stats were reduced by 50%. Now I need a commissioner to pass judgment in my stead. Anubis spoke after picking and choosing for a while from among the swarm of insects. He chose a giant mantis as black as coal, introducing it as the warrior who would pass judgment for him, and even asked a question that made one's skin crawl. "What do you think of this mighty warrior of mine?" Alice couldn't help but comment as she looked at the mantis. What a blocky body and a waist so ugly it could shatter your soul. Kang Jin-hyuk pulled out a mini music player that had a function to play a specific tune. It could not be destroyed until the music ended to counter Anubis. He thought this guy must have been scared senseless by his terrifying warrior to be pulling out music at a time like this. Kang Jin-hyuk closed his eyes tightly, parrying the mantis's attack while answering the mutt's question. "It's nothing big, I'm just enjoying the music, you idiot." It was a critical response that directly infuriated the boss because the reason Kang Jin-hyuk brought out the music was because he had researched and experimented hundreds of times to find the rhythm that perfectly reproduced the giant mantis's attacks, and he just needed to follow that rhythm. To counterattack like a conductor, Anubis also realized that the opponent perfectly dodging attacks in time with the rhythm was definitely not just luck. 1 minute had passed. Kang Jin-hyuk was drenched in sweat. Now he was completely free from the seal and could use his skills and special moves. Kang Jin-hyuk immediately activated Grave Shadow Sword. He hacked away at the mantis like mincing meatloaf, but even though it was being diced, this insect was also quite formidable. It even had wound regeneration, which was insanely cool. But its opponent was no pushover either. Kang Jin-hyuk didn't stop hacking and slashing relentlessly, giving it no time to rest and regenerate. Dying and then regenerating was utterly exhausting. Watching this scene, Alice's expression changed. One might think she felt sorry for the mantis, but no. The girl suddenly flashed a wicked smile. She thought to herself, "I didn't expect this guy to be so strong. Then it's quite possible he could help me get revenge." After toying with his opponent to his heart's content, Kang Jin-hyuk rested for a moment. Seeing this, Anubis quickly urged his warrior to attack. However, Little did he know that a warrior chosen by a god usually has immense pride, a technique that can completely crush a warrior's will, is one who always believes they will win. Is humiliation and provocation with a roguish look on his face? Kang Jin-hyuk casually walked over and sat on the mantis's head. The insect was humiliated to its very core. It shot to its feet, said something, then slit its own throat, and the end result was that it committed suicide right in front of Anubit in an anticlimactic way. Anubit's face soured, not understanding what the hell had just happened. The mantis was gone, leaving behind a grimoire of ice magic for Kang Jin-hyuk. Thanks to it, he received the Frostbind skill. The effect of exclusivity is truly different. No wonder the big guilds fight over all the lucrative towers. What an unexpected reward. Anubit was furious now, grudgingly admitting that he was no ordinary human. But to attack with that toy is just pathetic. You want to fight me, you don't even dare to fight me directly. What are you rambling about? You're nothing special yet, you managed to reach the 42nd floor. After hearing Kang Jin-hyuk's reply, Anubit began to question its own existence, and couldn't help but ask curiously, you knew that only my consciousness exists here. So why did you come here to challenge me? Kang Jin-hyuk grinned widely. A reason? Do I need a reason? I just thought it would be fun. This answer directly made Anubit fly into a rage. Fun? You said it was fun. How dare a mere human like you use me for your own amusement, huh? Insolent. As soon as the shouting ended, the Imperial Poison Wasp was also activated. It was an ancient wasp species that could summon countless giant insects. Anubit had lost control. With its mind filled with rage, it screamed out orders to its soldiers to butcher that insolent human for me. Immediately, Kang Jin-hyuk wasn't the least bit afraid. Combining the fire element and the glow subspade version of Frostbind, he fused them together to create a sunlight rupture. To counter it was an AA rank skill that compressed mana and then exploded like a tornado. A single sweep was enough to turn all targets in its path to dust. Anubit was indescribably furious. He changed his plan and activated the skill-chosen object on the wasps in front, turning them into immortal creatures that continuously multiplied. Here we go. It was all going according to the plan he had prepared in advance. Kang Jin-hyuk pulled out a giant pill, an enlargement pill that increased an object's size by 10 times. Then he fed it to the wasps to munch on it. Was a good thing he fed it to the wasps, because if a person ate it, oh my god, that wasn't all. He then jumped onto the head of one and lured them to gather in one place. Next, Kang Jin-hyuk created an unidentified cube from the items he had purchased earlier. He trapped them inside, then stuffed the fire element in, and boom, it became a miniature prison, causing them to slaughter each other. Now Kang Jin-hyuk just had to sit back and reap the rewards. Easy game. The more monsters that were born, the more experience points they provided him. They were the most efficient photocopiers, and Anubit was now completely going insane. He couldn't believe that the person before him was so formidable as to have prepared everything in such detail. He furiously destroyed the swarm of wasps himself. He couldn't let someone just sit back and reap experience points for free. Anubit jumped up and down, throwing a fit. He continuously screamed and cursed loudly, threatening him. You'd better protect that worthless life of yours and climb to the top. When that time comes, I will punish you, insolent brat. After it finished cursing, the desert mutt also completely disappeared. Anubis's vessel was also destroyed. Kang Jin-hyuk successfully hacked the skill, his opponent's judgment. A skill that was truly high caliber. It's just that if you violate the rule of using it twice on the same target, you will have to face the wrath of the gods. The ancient Egyptian gods, to be precise. Just then, he also received a notification that the ancient gods had begun to pay attention to him. Some even showed a hostile attitude. Kang Jin-hyuk let out a long sigh, muttering and cursing the gods of this place for being so narrow-minded. Alice, who had been standing in a corner, was still dizzy with confusion, not understanding what the hell had just happened. She had just barely sat down for a moment when she was shooed away by Kang Jin-hyuk because he had a video call. How utterly unreasonable. On the other end of the line was Chun-Yu-sun with a face full of killing intent, angrily greeting him with an interrogation. What godforsaken corner are you in, Kang Jin-hyuk? Is it some place that I don't know about? From his mouth, he learned that within 24 hours, the Awakened Association would be holding a tournament. All players of AA rank and above were expected to participate. After saying that, Chun-Yu-sun requested that he participate in this tournament, and then have a rematch with him. What a crazy fan, chasing him all the way here just for a fight with so much on his plate. He was busy as hell. Kang Jin-hyuk, of course, refused immediately. Time is money, after all. No, you won't be able to refuse, Chun-Yu-sun stated firmly, then took out a black market ticket he had just swiped as a bargaining chip. Hearing the words black market ticket, Kang Jin-hyuk's eyes lit up like headlights according to Chun Yu-sun. Unlike the item shop where players use coins to trade, the black market was a place for secret auctions for members only. Those who had received an invitation could bid on items with cash. It was perfect timing, as he needed many items to take on the third-floor boss. Maybe he could find some cool stuff here. However, even with the ticket, Kang Jin-hyuk still didn't agree, but Chun Yu-sun pressed on, telling him about the winner's prize. That person would be given two choices. One was to choose a replica of an artifact from the National Museum of South Korea. The second was to continue competing against a player who didn't participate in the tournament, and they would get to choose their opponent. After hearing this, Kang Jin-hyuk blew his top. Something felt very wrong about this. He snapped at Chun Yu-sun, this time in front of everyone. "I will chop you into tiny pieces." Cursing was one thing, but in the end, the young man still had to drag his butt to the tournament to participate. While sitting bored, watching the guys below put on a show, Kang Jin-hyuk uploaded his video to a newly created channel. It immediately went viral and made a ton of money because the video featured an appearance by the nameless boy. Because the scene of the demon's appearance was cut, no one criticized Teresa and the star players of the main guilds or tried to pick a fight with them. The main forces wouldn't gain any benefits anyway. Countless praiseworthy comments appeared praising his personality as freaking awesome, totally badass, blah blah blah. Soloing a boss is god tier. The netizens' reaction was just as expected. The masked player in the story made everyone curious, boldly standing before the main guilds and declaring that he would solo the boss. Naturally, the atmosphere became hotter than ever. Roughly calculating, based on the views, 50 million is a massive number. If 10,000 views are 100 coins, then 50 million views would be 500,000 coins. Then subtracting the 90% fee, a fee more exorbitant than a loan shark's interest, it turns out Kang Jin-hyuk could receive about 50,000 coins, but even that was enough for him to spend extravagantly. He even considered buying a castle and becoming a tycoon. Meanwhile, the guys down below were still fighting boringly. Kang Jin-hyuk yawned over and over, wearily waiting for the end of this damn tournament. All were AA rank players or higher participating. The Awakened Association opened it with an unedited live broadcast for all the people, so they could see how strong and reliable the players were. In other words, this was a way to soothe the tense atmosphere and boost the association's credibility. After many consecutive failed attempts to conquer the third-floor boss, finally, after a long and time-consuming fight, a winner emerged. Of course, it was none other than the overly confident Chun Ji-sun, who didn't even let the MC finish announcing the winner's rights. Chun Ji-sun interrupted to choose his next opponent. Everyone thought it would be some big shot like a guildmaster. But surprisingly, he stood in the middle of the arena and pointed straight at the stands, to the audience's utter confusion. Coincidentally, the tip of his sword was aimed at the representative of the Black Cloud Guild, Hong Dae Appa, and the EBA rank Dong Ju-hyun, which made the latter mistakenly think it was him and prepare to rush forward. Dong Ju-hyun was almost terribly embarrassed, but luckily Hong Dae Appa stopped him in time. Chun Ji-sun remained motionless, so Kang Jin-hyuk had to step forward, but his appearance caused the silent stands to suddenly erupt in a commotion as everyone quickly looked up his information. But oh boy, what hit them in the face was just an ordinary F-rank player. As soon as he jumped into the arena, Kang Jin-hyuk looked extremely tired and said, "You begged me for this, so if you lose this time, stop making such a fuss, okay? A person should also learn when to give up." They had just met, and this guy was already taunting him in every way. Just the word hard-working was enough to make Chun Ju-sun completely lose it. Hard-working, I've never stopped. Not even for a single second, just to catch up to you. If you want to get the ticket, then go all out. Having said that, he eagerly got into a fighting stance, ignoring his opponent's weary sigh. Here we go again. Well, since I'm here anyway. Kang Jin-hyuk decided to teach this stalking bastard a lesson in manners, and then after a series of earth-shattering clashes, both the arena and its roof vanished into thin air. Leaving behind a scene of desolate ruins, a tattered Chun Du-sun managed to squeeze out his last words, "Just how many skills do you have?" Then he just fell flat on the ground. Kang Jin-hyuk quickly ran over, not to help his opponent, but to swipe the black market ticket, and then smiled slyly, promising to make good use of it. Everyone in the stands now looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear, buzzing and whispering non-stop. At this moment, Kang Jin-hyuk spotted some acquaintances and acted welcoming towards the old man and the young girl from the museum. Seeing him, they were quite intimidated, but still had to pretend to be obedient and greet him. He even threatened the schoolgirl into giving him her phone number on a mandatory basis, which scared the poor girl out of her wits. But she still had to hand it over voluntarily. He thought that was the end of it and he could go home quickly, but no, the trouble was just beginning as the arrogant Dongju Hyun of the Black Cloud Guild suddenly jumped down with a thud. Then he acted friendly, wanting to shake hands and get acquainted, hoping for future consideration. Kang Jin-hyuk immediately activated his Eye of Truth to inspect this guy who had the unique skill Violent Giant. To copy it, he needed to grasp the guy's intention for approaching him. What that intention was, he'd have to rack his brain, but more importantly, how the hell could the system always figure out the opponent's intentions? It's more than just a normal program. Faced with Dongju Hyun's handshake and his flimsy excuse for wanting to get friendly, Kang Jin-hyuk immediately saw the truth behind that fake two-faced expression. It was filled with inferiority and resentment. The reporters swarmed in as if they had been waiting all along. His outstretched hand, the expectant face of the Black Cloud Guild's representative in front of the reporters, they wanted to show them how. Their super rookie subdued the winner and drew everyone's attention to them, their intention as clear as day was seen through by Kang. Jin-hyuk saw through it and successfully hacked the giant's hand into his collection. It's a skill that allows the player to use. The hand's strength would soar, and the user could freely use items up to 10 times their normal size back when it was still just a normal game. Because there were few players, the opportunities to copy were very limited, but times have changed now that the game has become reality abilities that others struggled to obtain. We're now obediently waiting for him to come and take them, an unimaginable hack. After obtaining the other guy's ultimate skill, Kang Jin-hyuk began his counterattack. He cursed his opponent out mercilessly, and then knocked him out with a similar move Dongju Hyun thought he was on another level, but no. He was suddenly controlled by the judgment of a Nubit, followed by the sound of a bone-snapping arm break in excruciating pain, and it ended with Jin Hyun's devilish smile. Along with a critical punch right to his gut, he just gave a glance and put on a superior air. You really want to be colleagues, huh? What the hell kind of acquaintance are we that you're acting so friendly? The result was Dongju Hyun lying motionless on the ground, foaming at the mouth, unable to move a muscle, seeing the protege that he had worked so hard to train. Beaten so badly, Hongdae Appa flew into a rage and rushed forward ready for a fight, but before making a move, he had to say a few lines like in a wuxia movie to get him to where he is today. Do you have any idea how much effort I put in? And yet you dare to abuse Do Hyun like he's a dirty rag. Ignoring his opponent's rambling, what Jin Hyuk cared about was the copy condition for the exclusive skill he needed to break Hongdae Appa's pride to obtain the Blood Demon aura. He needed a clear plan because that guy was no small fry. Jin Hyuk spoke up, advising Hongdeok Pyo to be patient and hold off on fighting to clarify the situation. But that guy wouldn't listen, he just went berserk. Calmly responding to the guy's question, "Are you scared now?" he boasted that he just hadn't decided to send the guildmaster to the coop with his underling, yet what could be more humiliating than that? "You despicable bastard! What nonsense are you spouting?" Hongdae Appa yelled as he charged forward with his Blood Demon aura skill activated at max level facing it. Jin Hyuk was no pushover either. He activated Sunlight Break level 2. Boosting by 99 points, the gap narrowed by 33 levels. He easily blocked the attack. Hongdeok Pyo was pissed as hell. He was the commander of the vanguard who finished off the boss. The old divine soldier on the second floor of the Tower of Trials, and yet he let an F-rank counter his attack. Just as he was about to unleash his next move, his opponent suddenly stopped. Jin Hyuk activated conciliation and said a few sweet words to soothe the guy's ego. In a tournament that the entire nation is watching like this, you should be showing them a more reliable side of yourself, shouldn't you? It's unknown whether Hongdeok Pyo's ears were receptive to it or not. But just then, Commander-in-Chief Han Sang-jin of the Awakened Association also appeared as soon as he saw someone. Hongdae Oppa immediately tried to tattle, but Han Sang-jin wasn't a child to believe just anything. He interrupted, telling the guy to calm down. This isn't a competitive exhibition, so of course injuries are unavoidable, after saying that he completely ignored Hongdae Oppa and turned to greet Kang Jin-hyuk friendly. Even more surprisingly, he bowed respectfully, which shocked the living daylights out of everyone. The reason was that before coming here, he had rechecked his test results and knew that he had pressured the investigation agency, which was why there was a discrepancy in his rank. Mr. Jin Hyuk, congratulations on being recognized as a rank. As player the 16th in South Korea, Han Sang-jin bowed 90 degrees and expressed his sincere apologies for the association's error in giving him an undeserving rank. This news immediately made the stands and public opinion explode. A new S rank had appeared so unexpectedly, causing the media to scramble to report it. Hongdae Appa stood nearby, sweating profusely, silently cursing what the hell was happening with this tournament. This was supposed to be the Black Cloud Guild stage. Why has it all sunk into oblivion like this? He was determined to salvage this situation at all costs. And so Hong Deok-pyo randomly pulled over a passing reporter offering to reveal the Black Cloud Guild's plan for the third-floor boss to them, but oh, how embarrassing. A reporter paid no mind to the loser and scrambled towards Kang Jin-hyuk, even telling him to get in touch again when he had time. Hong Deok-pyo was utterly defeated and could only turn tail and leave. His pride was completely trampled, and without lifting a finger, Kang Jin-hyuk acquired his unique skill Blood Demon Aura as news of the 16th S-Rank player broke. Immediately after, the news spread like wildfire across the headlines, and public reaction was exactly as Kang Jin-hyuk had predicted. Moreover, he was even given a first-class plane ticket to Las Vegas, just where he wanted to go. It seems this is why everyone wants to achieve the highest rank. The treatment was on a completely different level. Kang Jin-hyuk sat in the plush seat enjoying the relaxing feeling. He was even served a light meal, a luxury he hadn't experienced in 11 years. As he was savoring the moment, Alice suddenly started grumbling uncomfortably about the man in front of her, whining that he had a strange smell, that his blood emitted a very unpleasant and suffocating scent. She declared she would absolutely never drink such foul-smelling blood. His enjoyment interrupted. Kang Jin-hyuk grumbled at her, telling her not to body-shame people like that. Alice snapped angrily that she was not joking and that man was not a good person. Seeing that she seemed serious, he paid a little more attention. He used the eye of truth to check, and well, he wished he had not. Once he looked, he saw how truly rotten the guy was. This handsome fellow was actually a necromancer belonging to the Demon Guild, and to copy his skills, he needed to raise his affinity level. And the condition for that was joining the Demon Guild. Looking at his face and his perfectly natural acting, it was truly unbelievable. Speak of the devil. The blonde guy suddenly gasped and turned around as if he were completely surprised, asking, "Are you Kang Jin-hyuk?" The S-Rank player, who was just recently recognized in South Korea. Kang Jin-hyuk knew this was no coincidence. This bastard was on the same flight to target him. Being recognized as an S-Rank meant it was not just the major guilds who had their eyes on him. Knowing this, he still decided to play along to see what this guy was up to. The blonde man took out a business card, introduced himself as Alex Judro, and invited him for a drink to kill some time. And so over a bottle of high-class cognac, he produced. The man told his entire life story, starting with how well his business was doing, to the hardships he overcame when the Tower of Trials first appeared. He then abruptly changed the topic, revealing that he came to South Korea to recruit awakened ones and planned to join the third-floor boss raid with his masked friend Nameless. It was all a tangled mess. Kang Jin-hyuk sipped his drink, listening to the guy spin his tail and act all chummy with the masked man, which was incredibly cringy. Little did he know the man himself was sitting right in front of him. After a while, his true purpose was revealed. Alex Judro invited him to join them in raiding the third-floor boss. Because S-Rank players had the right to operate independently, no one could lay a hand on him or his group. In this situation, Kang Jin-hyuk remained silent. Since Nameless had already declared he would raid it alone, the major guilds would be strictly controlling access to the third-floor boss room. After thinking for a moment, he decided to reject the offer. Unwilling to give up, Alex Judro took out a vial with a scheming look on his face, introducing it as elixir, a potion capable of curing even incurable diseases. It could even mend a broken heart. Kang Jin-hyuk held it, looking completely dumbfounded as greed began to stir within him. Alex Judro continued his pitch, offering the vial as a down payment. All he had to do was sign this contract. With his special eyes, Kang Jin-hyuk immediately recognized it as a demon contract. On the surface, it looked like any other ordinary contract, but if it were to be violated, the hidden death curse within would activate. Of course, the solution was simple. As long as he did not sign, there was nothing to worry about. Kang Jin-hyuk refused to sign the contract. He gave the excuse that he did not want to antagonize the major guilds. Alex Judro did not push it and reached out to take the vial back, however. Kang Jin-hyuk was not giving it back. "Whatever is in my hand is mine, so do not even think about taking it back," he replied with a slight smile. "Although I am a cautious person, I am also quite ambitious. Whatever I want, I make sure to take with me." Alex Judro, having been robbed in broad daylight, was powerless to do anything. He could only threaten that Nameless would make him pay for this, but that was just laughable. Kang Jin-hyuk directly called out his lie, saying the shameless folks at the Olympus conference thought Nameless was on their side. He then taunted the man, saying that if he behaved, he might reveal a few things about this nameless fellow. Alex Judro was fuming, but could only bite the bullet and swallow his anger. Kang Jin-hyuk landed safely in Las Vegas, completely unscathed. Looking at the lavish city before them, Alice could not help but exclaim that it was pretty nice. Walking beside her, Kang Jin-hyuk repeatedly reminded her to keep quiet and not cause any trouble, or else he would stuff her back into that pitch-dark ring. This was her reward for spotting the demon on the plane. To execute his upcoming plan, he quickly summoned the memory of the world. He fused the Eye of Truth and Blood Demon aura skills, creating the Gluttonous Eye, which could see an opponent's status window and read their thoughts. Alice thought they were going into the massive casino in front of them. But no. The place they arrived at was a tiny little casino in the middle of nowhere, with the small distinction that magic was allowed. Before stepping inside, they witnessed customers being cheated out of all their money by players using skills even when they reported it to the manager. But they only got a beating and a cold declaration. You use skills too. So what is there to say around here? If you get cheated, you are the fool. Kang Jin-hyuk overheard and had to admit the guy was not wrong. Alice, who just a moment ago was complaining about how boring this place was, now had eyes sparkling with interest. Kang Jin-hyuk carried her to the drink counter, told the bartender to make whatever she wanted, and then went off alone to earn some cash. Kang Jin-hyuk started with the card games. He immediately used a hacked skill from Anubit to seal his opponent's abilities, and then went all in with $5 million, winning a huge sum back. But for this bunch, a customer had only won that little. They were already kicking up a fuss, accusing him of cheating and calling security to drag him away for interrogation. Interrogate his ass. Kang Jin-hyuk stood up and repeated the words he had heard earlier to the man. Around here, any bastard who gets cheated is the fool. As he spoke, he treated them to a few basic moves. Alice nearby could not care less and calmly enjoyed her drink. The managers were panicking because their guild leader still had not shown up. The man was on pins and needles looking at the battlefield before him. He thought something was not right. Even though this was an illegal establishment, how could a madman like this possibly exist? He was already tense as a wire when the guy next to him kept calling out for the manager, annoying him even more. But as soon as he read the message that the man before him was Kang Jin-hyuk, the player who had just been confirmed as an S-rank, his attitude did a 180. Even in the US, there were fewer than 30 S-rank players. If this guy went on a rampage, this little corner of his would be completely wiped out. At that thought, he ordered his underlings to stop and knelt down in fear to apologize, stopping the fight mid-swing. Kang Jin-hyuk, who had not even warmed up yet, frowned and replied, "Why the sudden apology? Realized you messed with someone out of your league, huh?" With that, he began to calculate the money he was due. On top of the money he had rightfully won, there was also compensation for emotional distress from the violence. And then blah, 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 which in short came to $10 million. The man flinched hearing $10 million, but for the safety of his establishment. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and hand it over. Kang Jin-hyuk grinned triumphantly, as this was just enough to join the auction for the item he wanted. The timing was perfect. A short while later, a car from the auction organizers came to pick him up. The windows were blacked out, so it seemed the auction's location was top secret. That alone made it something to look forward to. The moment they arrived at the gate, Alice began whining to be let out. As soon as she was free, she was ecstatic. There were many prying eyes around, so Kang Jin-hyuk did not forget to remind her not to cause a scene inside. The venue looked incredibly grand, and the buzz about the auction items was overwhelming. Rumor had it that at this auction, the merman dragon's heart would be appearing. This was all thanks to the advent of the Tower of Trials because of mana waves or something of the sort. All the treasures that had vanished in ancient times were now reappearing. Just as he was getting excited, Alice suddenly covered her mouth and gagged uncomfortably. Oh, it turned out that in front of them was that demon Alex. That damn Judro and his master Julius Cedric. They seemed to be here because of the trick Kang Jin-hyuk had pulled on them earlier. Looking at the state of that blonde guy, he knew he had been beaten to a pulp for failing his task and even had the elixir stolen from him. Kang Jin-hyuk immediately activated Gluttony's Eye to inspect Julius Cedric, 58 years old, level 30 necromancer with the unique skill guardian of the Labala Pyramid. Just as he predicted, this old man possessed outstanding abilities and even had a unique skill that could create synergy with other necromancers. With just a small amount of mana, he could summon so many spirit beasts it was truly an ability anyone would covet but surprise old man. The condition to copy his skill was to complete black magic studies under Cedric with an A+ grade. What an absolutely insane condition. I'll deal with that later, this system must be insane. First, Kang Jin-hyuk had to poke at the old man's sore spot a little. He smiled, gently approached, and opened his foul mouth to begin the taunting. Thanks to your disciple, I obtained something very precious and had a very pleasant flight, too. Julius Cedric paid him no mind and went straight to the main point. He wanted to know a few things about Nameless, but what Kang Jin-hyuk enjoyed was making things difficult for others, so he just got up and walked away. Ignoring the old man's threats, he wasn't scared at all, swatting away the fake skull and saying some other time. Alice, seeing this, became extremely eager, offering to personally eliminate those smelly guys for him. Kang Jin-hyuk didn't want to stir up trouble in this place that was so difficult to reach. So he had to quickly stop her a moment later as everyone eagerly waited. The 175th black market auction began. The first item was a meteorite sample that had fallen in the state of Arizona in the U.S., with a starting price of $100,000. Currently, no skilled craftsman could process meteoric iron, in other words. Right now, nobody knew how to use that thing, Kang Jin-hyuk thought to himself. This was the perfect opportunity to buy it for the cheapest price, so he did just that. He immediately bid $300,000 with a triumphant expression, thinking he would get the meteoric iron for a dirt-cheap price, but then a $1 million bid from the old man Julius Cedric slapped him in the face. And it wasn't just the meteoric iron, good heavens. Any item he wanted to buy was snatched up by the old geezer. Kang Jin-hyuk planned to trick him into buying a pile of things to drain his funds. His treasury, but he hadn't considered that the old man was several times richer than him. Next up was an item for real players. The primordial chessboard. Alex Judro saw his master still wanted to go all out. But when he tried to intervene, he got an earful. You idiot, if that guy easily gets what he wants, then what's your plan, huh? Although he had suffered a small loss, his finances were still more than enough, so he absolutely had to buy it to trade for information about Nameless. Kang Jin-hyuk seemed very interested in this item. He continuously bid, acting desperate to the point of raising the item's price to $8 million. Seeing the sky-high price, he had to bite the bullet, his face darkening as he bid $10 million. However, the old man had no intention of stopping. He excitedly placed a bid of $30 million, causing the entire hall to erupt. You can only afford up to $10 million. That's your limit, isn't it? I knew it. This is the thing you truly desire. If you want to get this item, then come here and grovel at my feet, he shouted gleefully in Kang Jin-hyuk's face. Watching the item he needed get taken away, he was utterly devastated. His head hung low as he racked his brain for a countermeasure, but right at the last second before the buyer was announced, Alice suddenly shot to her feet. Bidding $100 million, the old man was so shocked his jaw could have hit the floor. He kept pushing, but this was a losing battle for him. Alice sealed the deal with a massive bid of $200 million. This made even the auctioneer demand proof of her balance, proof she might not have, but she had vaults full of gold and silver. Alice showed them a whole pile of gold, silver, and precious gems. The sight alone was blinding. The crown that casually fell out was worth $500 million by itself. True royalty indeed. Julius Cedric now realized that this girl was the truly formidable opponent, and moreover, she was acting under Kang Jin-hyuk's command like a subordinate. Perhaps an enemy even more troublesome than Nameless had just appeared. The tables had turned. Unable to compete, they immediately resorted to dirty tricks, implementing Plan B, a suicide bombing. An ambush on the entire building, throwing everything into chaos. They turned the people here into sacrificial pawns, materials for them to cultivate their demonic power. The cries of despair and pleas for help made it feel like my head was about to split open. Help me echoed from everywhere, standing before this insane master and disciple duo. Kang Jin-hyuk couldn't bear it any longer and had to step in. You've crossed the line, you disgusting bastard, he said angrily. The necromancer had been holding back until now and finally had a chance to let loose. He summoned some creepy-ass zombies. Seeing that his opponent was still holding on, he brought up the day he was humiliated like a dog on the plane. The order for your elimination has been given. So there's no reason for me to hold back any longer. With that, he unleashed his ultimate technique to attack. But damn, this guy talked too much. If you're going to fight, then just fight already. He was still yapping on and even asked about Alice's whereabouts. Since he asked, Kang Jin-hyuk had to answer, taunting that she hated disgusting things, so she ran off long ago. That's what he said, but in reality she had to release the items because it was difficult for him to maintain his mana in this situation. The purgatory flames attacked relentlessly, dragging out the fight like this wasn't a solution. Therefore, he needed to end it as quickly as possible, but that was easier said than done. Even after using the tomb mirror, his opponent was as persistent as a leech, and even stronger than before. After observing for half a day, Kang Jin-hyuk realized the guy was using this method to stall for time. As long as he absorbed more life force, he could keep summoning more monsters and lead his opponent around by the nose. Draining their mana, this was known as the standard combat tactic for necromancers. However, Kang Jin-hyuk had no intention of letting him get his way. He once again used the Scales of Anubis skill to control the attacks, combining it with sunlight to incinerate all the corpses, even though Alex Judro had thoroughly researched his enemy's skills from the battle at the martial arts tournament, but he never expected there were still so many things he didn't know. He intended to have the zombies spread out and attack before the beams of light could fully converge. But what bad luck. Those zombies couldn't even budge an inch before being wiped clean by Kang Jin-hyuk's ultimate skill. Alex Judro lay sprawled on the ground after a huge explosion and screamed in disbelief, "No way, my babies." After witnessing the scene before him, Kang Jin-hyuk calmly taunted him. "Look what a mess your precious babies have become." Alex Judro realized he had lost and planned to use a smoke bomb to escape. But in the end, he got a knife in the back. "You start a riot, and now you plan to just cut and run, huh? I'm going to show you just how I'll carve you up. Over the next half hour, your lungs will slowly fill with blood, and as your lungs fill with that blood, you will suffocate and die. I've heard that the most painful death after being burned alive is suffocating," Kang Jin-hyuk said, emanating a murderous aura as he approached and pulled out the knife. He continued to add that he could also spare his life if he provided information about the demon folk seeing the elixir in his opponent's hand. Alex Judro thought he would actually be saved. He struggled up, intending to speak, but couldn't get a word out through the choking. He was about to write it down, but Kang Jin-hyuk stopped him. Now he understood this man had no intention of letting him live. Kang Jin-hyuk pretended as if the man was paralyzed. "Well, if you don't want to reveal anything, then my hands are tied. I don't need this anymore. You can keep it, and I'll ask just one thing of you. Try to make your death as painful and as slow as possible, okay? You worthless piece of trash," ignoring the disgusting necromancer. His attention was caught by the pile of items strewn across the floor, thinking that he could create a rather spacious storage bag with these materials. Kang Jin-hyuk glanced around for a moment to see if anyone was watching. Then he furtively combined them, creating a huge spatial dimension. While he was up to his shady business, someone suddenly called out from behind, making him jump, and blurted out that he had no intention of taking those items for free. The host, seeing him say that, immediately waved his hands to say it wasn't necessary. He thanked Kang Jin-hyuk for saving him and his son from death, saying it was nothing. It was the first time he had witnessed such an admirable scene, and he was quite moved, but since the man said he didn't need payment, he didn't waste any more time and just left, without another word. As if a moment's delay would cost him a bar of gold at the third floor of the trial tower, the Church of Hatred. It was an old church built of stone in a Western architectural style. The church was located deep in a gloomy forest with mist swirling everywhere. Inside were scattered debris and a figure hiding behind a wooden door riddled with arrows. The person's eyes reddened with rage. Suddenly they threw the door aside in frustration and yelled, "Damn it, why are the traps here so damn complicated?" Melina, who was in the lead, leaned forward slightly, placing her left hand on her forehead, and said with annoyance, "Do we have to go this deep every single time?" Li Chao, following behind, replied, "Stop complaining, Melina. It's because of that idiot Alex. So I'm already in a bad mood." She turned in annoyance, glaring at him, and said resentfully, "You're in a bad mood, are you?" Suddenly, she pressed a knife to his neck, her eyes changing color as she gritted her teeth, saying, "So now I have to care about your mood, too." Li Chao, slightly annoyed, replied, "You'd better if you don't want to die." A voice from behind them said, "That's enough, you two." It made them both stop arguing and turn to see who it was. On his cloak was an emblem of an inverted cross with the word culture written over it. He wore a white mask with a long, crooked nose. His red eyes made him look even more frightening. He wondered, aren't you two partners who have gone through life and death together for over 15 years? He stared at the two of them and continued, "Can't you two go a single meeting without picking a fight?" His words made them both scowl and turn in opposite directions. In the church hall, Melina and Li Chao sat in separate pews, listening intently to Lancelot. "The reason I have summoned you two here is because of the appearance of a special individual named Kang Jin-hyuk." Melina rested her arm on the pew and said smugly, "It seems that Kang Jin-hyuk fellow has played this game before. Even so, his skill is probably only on par with some amateur ranker, right?" Lancelot placed his hands behind his back and warned in a cold voice, "Don't be careless. He might have already conquered even floors." "Higher than us!" She sneered contemptuously and said the leadership group conquering the 20th floor of the tower was already insane enough. How could he possibly do that? Li Chao seemed to agree with Melina's opinion. He said, "I also think that hypothesis is a bit of a stretch." She crossed her arms and glanced at him. He calmly presented his reasoning to avoid the surveillance of international police. "We chose the Tower of Trials, a less popular virtual reality game. Even so, we know quite a lot about this tower." She quickly replied, "That's right. What other players would have such a special reason?" She relaxed, looking up at the ceiling with a bored sigh, and said, "Even if someone had too much time on their hands, unless they're a complete psycho. Who would bother sticking to such a brutal game without a reason?" Lancelot stood still, annoyed, thinking neither of them is taking this seriously, but they certainly understand each other well. "I cannot underestimate this Kang Jin-hyuk." He clasped his hands and began to cast a spell. Black smoke swirled around him. He thought with determination, "I must eliminate all possible risks." He coldly ordered, "You two will go with Cedric." As he finished speaking, he vanished into the black mist along with the words, "Help him not to fail this time." Melina and Li Chao stood up and walked to the door, confidently replying, "That old man worries too much." In a luxurious house, a girl with long, flowing black hair was in a stance ready to attack. Li Taemin wore a red helmet. His pupils wavered as he watched nervously. Suddenly, Yu Jonghua unleashed a devastating kick that he couldn't block. He gritted his teeth and raised his arm to block the kick. Unable to withstand it, he fell to his right, his protective gear scattering everywhere. She asked with concern, "Are you okay?" He shakily gave a thumbs up to show he was okay. Hearing footsteps, he beckoned her closer and said, "Hey sis, come look at this." Yu Jonghua, drying her hair, walked over with a puzzled look. Li Taemin pointed at the tablet screen in disbelief and said, "I've been watching this for a while now. This guy is not normal at all." On the tablet screen was the title, "Conquering the Third Floor Boss of the Tower of Trials." Today's video will reveal for the first time how to conquer the boss. As she sat down on the sofa, she picked up the remote and turned on the TV, saying sarcastically, "He's probably just chasing clout like the others. Isn't that right?" He put a keyboard into his bag while looking at her and agreeing that could be it. "But I have a feeling something is very special about this." Yu Jonghua looked at the TV and said, "This is the wooden figure temple in the third-floor boss room." Taemin replied, "That's right. This place was pretty famous back in the day. If you correctly answer the 3 questions given by the wooden figure, the reward is an item that increases your abilities." His expression changed slightly, sweat poured down, and he said hesitantly, "But the real problem is, the wooden figure's questions are extremely difficult." A strong wind blew, making the wooden figure's canopy sway and kicking up dust surrounding the masked young man. Wearing a white coat, he silently watched the wooden figure whose eyes were closed. On the TV, a comment from Dry Rations _is_the_future appeared. "Hey, I heard the third-floor boss room is going to be controlled, so that Anon can't get in to clear it." Then came a comment from Twitch Stream King tutorial on how to sneak in bro kick. Just then, a comment from Eats the Whole World appeared. "Cosplay as a non-bro kick. The wooden figure opened its eyes slightly and said cheerfully, "It's been a long time since someone has made it here." It asked mockingly, "You little brat, have you come to answer my questions as well?" He put his 2 hands in his coat pockets and replied coldly, "Yes, so ask something interesting." The wooden figure looked at him and said confidently, "Very well. If you answer all 3 of my questions correctly, I will let you choose one of my maple leaves, but if you get even 1 question wrong." At that moment, the statues activated. Stepping out from their places and surrounding Kang Jin-hyuk, the statues were 100 times his size each, with a grim face holding a weapon as if ready to strike at any moment. But he wasn't scared at all, still standing calmly with his hands in his pockets, waiting for the wooden figure's question. It threatened, "Then you will face your punishment." Without waiting for his reaction, it said, "Let's begin." The first question. Suddenly, an image appeared of a dragon diving into the deep sea at an incredible speed. It asked, "What is the optimal depth and temperature for the Kyogan sea dragon species to live?" Taemin exclaimed worriedly, "At this rate, he's definitely going to get it wrong." "What kind of ridiculously hard question is that?" Yu Jonghua gritted her teeth in frustration and said, "Who would know something like that?" Kang Jin-hyuk calmly gave the answer. The answer is a depth of 175 meters and a temperature of 1.5 degrees. The 2 siblings, Taemin and Jonghua, were stunned by his quick answer. Kang Jin-hyuk nonchalantly said, "Next question." The wooden figure was speechless and stammered, "I haven't even announced the correct answer yet." Kang Jin-hyuk said impatiently, "I already know the answer. Next question." It grew angry at his arrogant attitude. It said angrily, "Very well, then. The next question won't be so easy." The voice from the TV asked the second question, how to use the Feliani sea sponge. Without waiting for it to finish the question, Kang Jin-hyuk answered immediately. "You cook salt from the sun desert and holy water from a priest who has completed a Tier 2 quest over a low flame meticulously for 5 hours. Manhwa and Taimin were completely bewildered, not understanding Adi was answering. The wooden figure said unhappily, "Yes, that is correct." This time it couldn't maintain its composure. It looked down at him flustered and said to the final question, "The giant eagle of the sky plateau mates only once a year. When is that?" Kang Jin-hyuk's hand slammed down on the buzzer. Then he pointed at the wooden figure and confidently gave the answer. "When the first snow of the season falls in the Tower of Trials." The wooden figure broke into a wide, happy smile and said, "Ah ha ha ha, correct answer. You are the first person to answer all of my questions correctly." He rubbed his nose shyly and replied it was pretty fun. "It's been a while since I've been able to talk about the Tower of Trials." At this point, the comment window exploded with comments scrolling by one after another. After laughing, it returned to its calm state, closed its eyes, and said, "All right, I will grant you the maple leaf you desire. Red, yellow, and green. Which color do you choose?" Taimin raised his hand and explained excitedly, "The red one is covered in reddish flames and has the fire attribute. The yellow maple leaf is shaped like a yellow shield. It enhances defensive abilities, while the green one increases movement speed." Hearing him explain the uses of the 3 colored maple leaves, Manhwa said curiously, "The third-floor boss conquest is a large-scale battle. In that case, he'll probably choose the speed-boosting leaf, right? If it were me, I'd choose that one." Kang Jin-hyuk said annoyed, "Put those mediocre maple leaves aside. I want something else." He had suddenly flown in front of the wooden figure tree and ordered, "Bring out the black leaf you're hiding." Hearing him demand the black maple leaf, it panicked. Its pupils trembled and sweat poured down like rain. It stammered, "How do you know about the black leaf?" The two siblings, Taimin and Manhwa, looked at each other and said in unison, "The black leaf." It tried to remain calm. "Please, I can't give that to you. How about this? If you choose the red leaf, I'll give you the yellow one as well." Maple leaves fell on the wind as the wooden figure tried to persuade him, feigning a pitiful look. "How about it? Isn't that more than generous?" Kang Jin-hyuk feigned disappointment and started to turn away. He said mockingly, "The prestigious and great wooden figure promised that if I answered all the questions correctly, you would give me the leaf I wanted." He sighed and continued, "And now you're going back on your word." Suddenly, he whipped back around his face cold as he glared at the wooden figure and ordered, "Stop your nonsense. Bring me the black leaf I want now." One hand in his pocket, he held out the other and asked viciously, "Surely you don't intend to tarnish the honor of a wood spirit, do you?" He slowly backed it into a corner. "What if the administrator of this place finds out?" The wooden figure cried out in pain. "Ah, damn it," as it slowly began to disappear. The system screen displayed a notification that the reward had been provided just as the item spirit promised. At the moment he disappeared, a black maple leaf appeared. Flying towards Kang Jin-hyuk, the screen displayed a new notification: acquired 1,280 black maple leaves. As he obtained the leaf, the screen revealed its information and effects. Black maple leaf. Rarity A. Description: when applied to a weapon or defensive gear, it grants a special ability, the corruption attribute, which activates every 3 minutes when attacked. It will deal additional damage equivalent to 1% of the target's total health. The user will not be harmed, and the corruption effect will only affect the enemy. He thought with satisfaction, "Very good, the final piece is ready." Looking at the maple leaf in his hand, he said approvingly, "Now then, shall we get going?" Before he could leave, 2 statues charged at him. He also drew his weapon, a short blue sword, and said confidently, "I just need to take care of them and it's over." A guy tapped his companion on the shoulder. "Hey, did you hear?" The other man waited curiously for him to continue. "An has already started to solo the third-floor boss room," the gossipy guy recounted. The other was quite surprised. "Oh, that's earlier than I thought." What the other guy was worried about was, "Now we're just stuck standing here. We just have to wait until our shift is over and then go home." The other soldier replied boredly, "But what's the point of watching this place anyway? Who would be crazy enough to want to come here? We're only doing this because we were ordered to. Just do whatever they tell us to." These were 2 soldiers on guard duty in front of the gate to that man's mission area. They must have calculated everything to have us do this, right? If you overthink every little thing, you'll never get anything done. The two men were so busy chatting they didn't notice their surroundings, and when they looked around, their other comrades were nowhere to be found. All that was left were weapons dropped on the ground and a lingering wisp of dark energy. The two men panicked and asked each other where did everyone go. At that moment, two black circles formed from smoke appeared beneath their feet. Thin tendrils suddenly shot out from within the circles, wrapping tightly around their legs. The man tried to struggle, but the circle expanded and more tendrils emerged, wrapping around his entire body. A voice spoke out, "Just absorb and accumulate their life force. I still need more, even if it's just one person. There is no more time to delay."